How's it going, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to Red Flag Journalism. I reserve all rights delegated to me by God and protected by the Constitution and recognized in the UCC 1-308 without prejudice. Also, UCC 1-103.6. Please note that you've been informed. I am not an attorney. This is simply just for educational purposes only and the freedom of press. Also, any actions commenced against me or this content may be in violation of USC 18241, conspiracy to go against my rights in the color of law, and also 242, deprivation of rights in the color of law, may be susceptible to a federal state class action lawsuit under USC 42, 1983. Please note that you have been informed. Now let's get into the video. How's it going, everybody? And welcome to Red Flag Journalism. I'm Hosea Amadeus, and today we're going to discuss a stream from 4 months ago at the House of Congress and Representatives and the GOP. An FBI or FBI whistleblowers testify at GOP-led House hearing. Full video. I make this video out of complete concern of the actual position that our country is in right now and moving forward. A lot of people have been divided, and whether they make sense to a situation and they go and take it upon themselves to read, research, and find information for themselves to put up real, actual, credible truths, facts, and evidence that explains where our country is at and why these problems have been occurring for quite some time now, that it's actually nothing new. For instance, an example, starting with the Holy Bible. Next would obviously be our Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the Articles of Confederation, and many other treaties that have been formed to solidify our country moving forward and what freedom really means, and that this is a contract that binds the government, not the people. Another great text is Isonomy. Another one from 1921 is Democracy and the Will to Power by James N. Wood. Great read, have an audio read on Electric Shaman. One of the great ones, The UCC Connection and How to Free Yourself, and many more like Time to Meet Your Strawman and What to Do. The Mark of the Beast. This is a literature that no longer is existing anymore. The Kabbalion and the 7 Hermetic Principles of the Laws of Nature. Vatican and World Politics, written by Avro Manhattan. This is a great read, and it talks about how the Vatican has infiltrated many governments and taken over many minds and institutions among men and any other corporate or government or anything that seems to represent the people through the Jesuits and other front societies that were created by the Vatican have actually taken over most of the world. The Secret Teachings of All Ages by Manly P. Hall. Anybody who is reading, and there's much, much more literature, like the Redemption Manual 4.5, Cracking the Code, the 3rd edition, and other literatures that have been written and documented the corruption and tyranny of this country and how it has gotten this bad. From 1871 and the Organic Act of 1871, from the Civil War and the reconstruction of the government that we see today, and the formation of the United States citizen and the second-class citizen, moving forward to having the first-class citizen, and through the 30s have implicated the same exact slave system through debt and chattel paper and negotiable instruments, and the creation from private ownership from slaves now to public ownership has now implicated all Americans sign over all their rights biologically and also tangible, equitable assets such as your house, your vehicles, your automobiles, and all things are being signed over to the state to pay for the national debt and to essentially strip us of all our rights moving forward. So anybody that starts to know the truth, what they are doing is they're implicating an idea of identity politics, that these are just conspiracy theories. Let's think about where this term conspiracy theory has been coined from. Now, a lot of people say that the term or coined phrase, conspiracy theorist, happened right around the time of the JFK assassination. That a lot of people had witnessed JFK on TV become assassinated. His head went back and to the left, but the person that shot him was up in the repository institute of where we actually get most of the Texas Instrument facility that actually creates all our educational books and curriculum academia. And they said that he got shot from the back, and somehow being shot in the back of the head made his head go back and to the left, that there had to have been another shooter. And so the more that people question the official narrative, this is where they got the term conspiracy theorist. But if you Google these things, it might be difficult to find the actual truth, obviously, because we're living in a paradigm where information is being controlled almost like 1984 by George Orwell, aka Eric Blair, that, you know, our media, our information, and if it doesn't get passed through the gatekeepers, then it can't be true. It has to be a conspiracy theory. So if you look, AP News, this was January 6, 2023, long before the JFK assassination. Here we go, we got Wikipedia. Okay, conspiracy theory, disambiguation. Conspiracy theory is an explanation for an event or situation that asserts the existence of a conspiracy by powerful and sinister groups, often political in motivation, when other explanations are more probable. The term generally has a negative connotation, implying that the appeal of a conspiracy theory is based in prejudice, emotional conviction, or insufficient evidence. A conspiracy theory is distinct from a conspiracy. It refers to the hypothesized conspiracy with specific characteristics, including but not limited to opposition to mainstream consensus among those who are qualified to evaluate its accuracy, such as scientists or historians. Now, I highly suggest people take it upon themselves to really research in depth what's necessary. I can only take you so far. I'm not asking you to believe what I say. I'm asking that you think. Engage in the process of thinking for yourself to come to your own logical conclusion. And the reason why I ask this is because taxpayers, workers, people out there in the field of reality, their credibility matters to me. The people and their voice has more credibility and validity than these 5 major corporations since 9/11 that control all our information, all the media, all the programming from TVs and everything. That's why it doesn't matter what you watch, excuse me, you're gonna get this transgender, homosexuality politicized into your life. And some people might get offended what I'm saying, but in a free nation, your political affiliation is private. So isn't your sexual orientation. So isn't your religion. Well, what they're doing is politicizing this and advertising it as though somehow this is beyond 1% or 3% of the nation. And it's so much so that your own children have to be implicated into this. That politically, children are being targeted by our very government and people that are behind this. And anybody that questions that, to me, is the one that possibly is insane. Because, and they have eaten the pill. They've drank the Kool-Aid. They believe the religion of government and what's being propagated as normal and not normal. Okay? Not very long ago, the Holy Bible was known as the good book. The book of truth. The book of the way. Bible, basic instructions before leaving earth. Anybody who follows this channel obviously probably would have an advanced consciousness to understand this terminology and has probably heard it before. This has been slowly being removed from the minds of people since the late 60s. You can look up a documentation that I created. This is a channel that I created when I had a radio show in 2014, 2013, right around there. You click in videos and you scroll down, and one of them is The Mind of the Beast. This is an amazing documentation. It converses about the connection of through animism leading into collective consciousness, the creation of us, and then so it goes from the original side of quantum physics, how we're interconnected within this realm that we call reality, and how we're a part of everything that's here, and the most molecular structure of life, and that if you affect one thing, you affect everything. It talks about esoteric, the nature of man from the anima to the animus, the female and the feminine, the flora and the fauna. It goes in very depth detail of our connection here on Earth on one half. And then the next half is going to be how churches, schools, these indoctrination centers, these governments have been created. And it was right around the 60s is when they started to remove the Bible from school. And they could get more control over people based off their lack of wisdom. So this was once, common knowledge. It's the gospel. It's the good word. It's the way, okay? And over time now, anybody that questions the validity of these things is deemed to be crazy, okay? So if you are a critical thinker or an individual that's researching and feeling compelled by the Holy Spirit or whatever spirit that is moving you to the truth of who you really are, okay? Eventually what's going to happen is you're going to start to meet an adversarial or adversarial oppositional people that are going to try to go against you and challenge your belief system, okay? And it's very easy to just pass everybody off as a conspiracy theorist when it contradicts or conflicts with the information of truth and puts other people under the candle or to the flame of their own accountability. So when they take information of people that have spent most of their existence researching the truth, okay, and it lines up with where there's corruption going on in the swamp or these House of Representatives, this government that claims to represent the people. It claims to represent the people, but yet every move they've done is to be against the people. Biden has been in politics for over 30 years. I'm 39. If the government was good and for the people, it wouldn't have been this bad now, to where only 8% have faith in Congress and the government itself. And what they're doing is that anybody who speaks the truth or aligns with information that proves that there is corruption and deception going on, that our government is not for the people, that it does not actually care about us, it does not have our best interests in mind, that they have been literally lining their pockets, robbing the American people for long before 9/11, okay? If they just needed 9/11 to create the Patriot Act to start really stripping us of our freedoms for our safety and security, which now the FBI has been militarized to go against the people. And if you speak like this, you must be a Trump supporter. It has to be that way. When everybody was saying this stuff before Trump ever got into office. I have denounced and renounced any affiliation with the United States. I once was a voter, and then I quickly went and realized that was a mistake. And I went down to the elections office and I filled out a paper to renounce any of my voting registration or anything like that. And then the reason why they asked is because I'm a non-citizen national and I don't believe in the government that exists. I believe in governing myself. And that it's up to me to be responsible moving forward as one of the people. Because in every state constitution dating from the 1800s and 1700s, moving forward into our United States Constitution, it says, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, okay? Look up the word religion in your Anderson Law Dictionary, your Black's Law Dictionary, and stay away from the Webster's if you don't want the layman term, you want to operate in the language that they're using against you, pick up a law dictionary. Or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech. Right now, they're trying to censor speech, and anybody that speaks and feeling for the safety, like I said, they're trying to protect the continuity of their self, not us. They don't give a shit about us. or of the press. So this is the press right here. Or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances, which I've done before in writing and recording and also documenting the calls as we move forward. So this right here is one of the people that has been very much involved in politics, geopolitics, not just politics within the United States, but politics abroad. And there's a lot of sneaky suspicions that a lot of these guys are actually working together while selling you the idea that they're enemies, and they can't bring in the order that they're looking for without the chaos that they create and implicate on the people, whether it's the American people, Canadian people, Mexican people, Argentinian people, Russians, Ukrainians, Chinese people. Everybody, I believe, just wants world peace and wants to try to move through the motions of life that are going to help them become successful, take care of their family, and move forward in a prosperous way. And maybe even declare or find peace within themselves so that there's world peace going on all around us. So we're going to go ahead and jump right in to this video now. And we're going to go into some depth of, it's very exciting because this is right now our government. Now it's only a few months old, but here's the opening statement from Chairman Mr. Jordan. And right away, you should be highly impressed of what's going on, but yet alarmed at the same time.
An opening statement. Politics is driving the agenda in federal agencies. You don't believe me? Just read the Durham report from 3 days ago. No probable cause, no predicate, no evidence whatsoever, but the FBI opened a case, took a dossier they knew was false, from a political campaign, from the Clinton campaign, to spy on a presidential candidate and American citizens.
I want to make note, and let's not forget Edward Snowden and what he did for the American people. He took it upon himself as a whistleblower to let the American people know that the NSA is spying on every American through phone calls, emails, basically collecting information and data to use against the American people, not benefit us. Let's just make this a note. If anybody is not familiar, there's an individual named Edward Snowden. It's right here. Edward Snowden, born June 21st, 1983, is a United States and naturalized Russian citizen who was a computer intelligence consultant and whistleblower who leaked highly classified information from the National Security Agency in 2013 when he was an employee and subcontractor. So while our government claims to care and respect and protect whistleblowers, this individual had to go run away to the very country that right now America has been demonizing since Trump got into office. When really the truth is that the Democratic Party, Obama included, has been colluding with Russia for quite some time. This is nothing new.
Here's the key line from the Durham report. Quote, the FBI failed to uphold their mission of fidelity to the law. They didn't follow the law. Didn't have probable cause or evidence to do what they did. An agency focused on politics. But I would argue today it's even worse. Because today it's not just presidential campaigns. Today it's the American people. They're the target. You're not politically correct. You're not in line with what they think should be the political position, the proper position. You're the target. Parents attending a school board meeting, pro-lifers praying at a clinic, or Catholics simply attending mass, you could be a target. And maybe what's just as frightening is if you're one of the good employees in our government who come forward to talk about the targeting, you then become a target. You face retaliation. If you're one of those, and I think there are thousands and thousands of good employees working across our country in the FBI and other agencies, but if you're one of those good employees driven by your commitment to the Constitution and your conscience, and you come forward, they're going to come after you. You come forward and tell us about the radical traditional Catholic memo. You come forward and tell us about this idea that they're going to create some snitch line to report on parents going to school board meetings. You do that, They will try to crush you. They will retaliate against you, coming after you. But these guys today, they were brave enough. They took their oath seriously. They believe in the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the rule of law, and they came forward. And I want to thank them for doing it. But because they did, man, oh man, if they face retaliation. Mr. O'Boyle was selected for a new unit, moved his family from Kansas to Quantico, Virginia, and the first day he arrives here, after being selected for this new unit, serving in our military, serving well in the FBI. First day he arrives here, they tell him his clearance is suspended. Can't get his belongings for his family, can't get his clothes, can't get his children's clothes, 4 kids and a 2-week-old newborn. Mr. Friend raised concerns about using the SWAT team to arrest someone who was willing to turn themselves in, and the FBI...
Let's not forget about Project Veritas and what they did for the American people, going out and exposing the CDC, the government, and all these people with their vaccinations. Let's not forget about what's just happened over the last 3 years. Remember, 2 weeks. That's all it was supposed to be. To what? Cut down the curve? To get ahead of the curve? It turned into mandates. People losing their jobs. It was either comply or die, basically. And people that got the vaccines, they got COVID, they did everything that they told them to do. These people are dead. Explain that.
Guy takes his clearance. Wouldn't even let him get access to his firearms training records.
And anybody who talks about this stuff on YouTube has been demonetized, censored. Their algorithms are cut. It's like they don't want the truth to get out there to anybody, let alone the American people. Transparency, nothing, no accountability whatsoever. And because of all the exposure of the pandemic and Event 207 and all the things that we're getting exposed, next you know we're going to war in Ukraine. And they're forgetting about COVID. Putin cured COVID. It's back, but it's back again. It's back again.
But she needs to get employment. Mr. O'Boyle's went 200 some days without getting paid. Mr. Allen's went 450 days without getting paid.
That's actually a violation of USC Title 18, and I believe it's 245 or 246. Right here, 246, whoever directly or indirectly deprives, attempts to deprive, or threatens to deprive any person of employment, position, work, compensation, or other benefit provided for or made possible in whole or in part by any act of Congress appropriating funds for work relief or relief purposes on account of political. This is pretty deep stuff. This is exactly what the FBI is violating. Appropriating funds for work relief or relief purposes on account of political affiliation, race, color, sex, religion, or national origin shall be fined under this title and imprisoned not more than 1 year or both. Interestingly enough. So, the FBI has treated whistleblowers, Americans that swore an oath to protect and serve the Constitution, to represent us, the people. So they work for us, not a foreign agency. But I guarantee it's through the Sovereign Immunities Act that is allowing these people to get away with what they're doing. And so because of the fact that they are going against tyrannical formats and ideologies, regimens, or ordinances, regulations, whatever it is, these people are being prevented from being paid, and they can't even go get jobs anywhere.
This is the kind of retaliation they have faced for coming forward and telling us the truth. For Mr. Allen, he lost his clearance for simply doing his job, compiling case-related research, using open source material, news, and articles, and passing them on to the people they have faced for coming forward and telling us the truth. For Mr. Allen, he lost his clearance for simply doing his job, compiling case-related research, using open source material, news, and articles, and passing them on to the people working the case. And they didn't like some of the material he passed on. 450 days without pay. And the retaliation isn't limited to the FBI. Democrats on this committee also engaged in it. They leaked parts of these guys' interviews to the press. Press reported on it, and then the press had to issue corrections. The Post, the Washington Post, the New York Times, Rolling Stone, because what the Democrats told them wasn't accurate, what they reported wasn't accurate. That's why Mr. Allen would only let Republicans talk to him. He said, I've seen what's going on.
I want to be interviewed by the Republicans. We've talked to over 24 whistleblowers. People have come to us. We've interviewed several of those, and today 3 of them. 3 of those brave whistleblowers and a lawyer who represents them will tell us their story. They will tell us what happened, what they saw, and then what happened to them because they were courageous enough to report it to Congress. And I just want to tell you guys, get ready. Get ready, because these guys are going to come after you. You know they are. Last hearing we had 2 journalists, Democrats, 2 Democrat journalists sat right where you guys did, and these guys tried to get them to divulge their sources. Someone needs to tell them how the First Amendment works. And while Mr. Taibbi, one of those award-winning journalists sitting right where you're sitting, was testifying, guess what else was happening? The IRS was knocking on his door. So get ready. But I know you're up to the task because you came forward in the first place. Thank you for your commitment to the Constitution, the First Amendment, the rule of law, and for your willingness to come forward and tell Congress what you've seen, what you've witnessed. Thank you for doing that. Mr. Levitt, thank you for representing him. We appreciate that. Now yield to the ranking member for...
Now, I'm going to fill in that these are no longer Democrats. Okay, in my opinion, these are Marxists, these are socialists, these are communists that have invaded our very political establishment from right wing to left wing. They're forgetting that they represent the American people. They don't represent some kind of ideology, just like they're not allowed to debate and use Christianity and the Bible to argue in the court of law, because through Christianity is going to offer redemption and forgiveness, and you really can't charge a lot of people to make money off victimless crimes and extort money out of them using the Bible, okay? You just can't do it. You have to alleviate these specific things to create an ideological system of slavery that somehow you really need a license to operate in freedom. You need permission. You need all these things. And the more that people wake up and they want freedom, it's going to have to involve less government. And the way that our Democratic Party has operated since the Clinton administration, and the way that Biden is operating even now, and Obama, this is actually what has sunken. And I'm going to say it like this. Since Bush was in office, okay, who was also a socialist and has many backgrounds affiliated with the Skull and Bones, drug funding of his organizations and bringing drugs into this country to be able to help with his campaigning, and he's got backroom deals with many other individuals that in order for our country to head into 9/11, it needed Bush to get in office. And they said that everything that Obama did was exactly what Bush was going to follow through with. So we don't have a government that represents the people anymore. In fact, me and my good friend, Crowley, aka Mothman, has coined that, we were hijacked that day. Our government was hijacked. Hostile takeover. Okay? No longer a government that represents the people. We were not allowed to go in other countries unless we had a reason of war, that somebody attacked us. But because now we have a boogeyman that the CIA created, okay, called Al-Qaeda, Al-Nusra, the Mujahideen, the Taliban, we created all these people who is the enemy for us to go after. So, and the only way that we were able to invade all the countries that we did and take over all their resources and their infrastructure and destroy them, there's a maxim of law and war, he who breaks it owns it. So we broke other countries. We own this stuff. And we're trying to control everybody to keep them under the IMF and the petrodollar and the monetary global system that exists now, which is starting to lose weight because China, Russia, Indonesia, South Africa, all these people are trying to bind together to create a new currency that goes against America because we don't do fair business. And what sucks is that the American people are always asleep at the job. They'd much rather live a lie than live the truth. And if they realize that they're accountable, you voted for these people. So whatever our country does, the blood is on your hands. That's why I'm doing this. This is going on our children and the children's children. And then when you guys look back and you're like, well, we didn't know. Yeah, you did. You voted for these people. You went back to work for the money that they created, that they own, and so that you're a slave to. And while you think this is what we need to do, look, they're raising the prices on everything. They're burning all our farms and taking them all over, derailing trains. They're taking over the entire country and all its infrastructure. And then moving forward, and you guys think, well, you know, something's going to get done. We're just going to vote for Trump. Listen, nobody's going to save the fucking day but you. That's the real truth. So let's continue forward and listen to this corrupt, tyrannical Marxist fucking Miss, what's her name? Pascal?
For an opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning. Today is our fourth hearing in this
Plaskett. Miss Plaskett.
Select Committee. In our previous three hearings, we've heard my Republican colleagues and their witnesses downplay the danger of extremism in America.
So, extremism, if you watch The Mind of the Beast, it had conversed about where Obama believed that anybody that believes in the Bible or the Constitution is an extremist. And that we need to get rid of all fundamental, beliefs and ideologies in this world to really fulfill this new world order of global dominance, mindless servants, people that are completely trapped in servitude and bondage by contracting themselves away into the system which has become the security of their own livelihood. So instead of God taking care of us and us putting faith in God, we put faith in government. And William Penn said it himself, "He who is not ruled by God shall surely be ruled by tyrants." Something like that. I'm probably paraphrasing. But let's go ahead and listen to this corrupt official of the reason why people say we need to drain the swamp, why we need to reset the system, and tell me this individual really aligns with the ideological beliefs of the critical thinking and the awareness of the American people, or is she working for a foreign agency? Is she speaking on behalf of other people that is obviously not through real, true American principles? I definitely have to show you what I'm talking about with the Obama statement that I made.
But there appears to be a growing contest between authoritarianism and liberalism right now. And I want everybody to understand, I am not neutral in that contest. I believe in a liberal political order. I know that some countries which now recognize the power of free markets still reject the model of free societies. Perhaps those of us who have been promoting democracy feel somewhat discouraged since the end of the Cold War, because we've learned that liberal democracy will not just wash across the globe in a single wave. It turns out building accountable institutions is hard work, the work of generations. The gains are often fragile. Sometimes we take one step forward and then two steps back. In countries held together by borders drawn by colonial powers, with ethnic enclaves and tribal divisions, politics and elections can sometimes appear to be a zero-sum game. But I believe this thinking is wrong. I believe the road of true democracy remains the better path. Young people need a global education in order to thrive. Independent media needs to check the abuses of power. And history shows that strong men are then left with two paths. Permanent crackdown, which sparks strife at home, or scapegoating enemies abroad, which can lead to war. Now, I will admit, my belief that governments serve the individual and not the other way around is shaped by America's story. Our nation began with a promise of freedom that applied only to the few, but because of our democratic constitution.
It's not a democratic constitution, but they try to make it like it is. Article 4, United States shall guarantee to every state in the Union a Republican form of government and shall protect each of them. So this is a great documentation for anybody that...
Because of our Bill of Rights, because of our ideals, ordinary people were able to organize and march and protest. And ultimately, those ideals won out. So yes, my views are shaped by the specific experiences of America, but I do not think this story is unique to America. So those of us who believe in democracy, we need to speak out forcefully, because both the facts and history, I believe, are on our side. Moreover, every country will organize its government informed by centuries of history and the circumstances of geography and the deeply held beliefs of its people. I recognize a traditional society may value unity and cohesion more than a diverse country like my own, which was founded upon what at the time was a radical idea, the idea of the liberty of individual human beings, endowed with certain God-given rights.
Essentially, he's contradicting himself.
But that does not mean that ordinary people in Asia or Africa or the Middle East somehow prefer arbitrary rule that denies them a voice in the decisions that can shape their lives. I believe that spirit is universal.
It's got the definition of universal, which basically means Catholic. Universalism is Catholic. See, universal. So this is now where what she's saying comes into effect, okay, with the Catholics. And
if any of you doubt the universality of that desire, listen to the voices of young people everywhere who call out for freedom and dignity and the opportunity to control their own lives. This leads me to the third thing we need to do. We must reject any forms of fundamentalism or racism.
So look up the definition of fundamental.
Or a belief in ethnic superiority that makes our traditional identities irreconcilable with modernity.
We got modernity on here. So assess for yourself. Now, I highly recommend people take it upon themselves to look up the word fundamental or fundamentalism. And it's going to essentially fall back towards the belief of Jesus Christ, that God's real, that Jesus was immaculately conceived, and that all the precepts of the Bible are true. And then this leads to the foundation of Americans' concepts of common law, that through the Bible and Jesus Christ is where we get individual liberty and freedom, that through the authority of Jesus Christ, we also get to make up churches, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and move back towards where we were on the FBI whistleblowing, and you heard it yourself from Mr. Obama and the entire Democratic, the government is, it's literally corrupt. The whole entire tree, it doesn't matter who you vote in, okay? And that's what I'm realizing. So when you listen to this woman's words, please tell me whether you're hearing this from the perception of the people that are experiencing everyday life and how they view America, or is this an agenda being propagated from a woman that's heavily indoctrinated, and wherever she comes up with these beliefs from, obviously seems to be with a protective, she's trying to protect somebody. She's looking out for the higher-ups wherever this agenda is coming from that she works for, which I believe is a foreign agency or the best interest of somebody else, not the American people.
Suggesting that the 2020 election was stolen and claimed that January 6th was anything other than an attempted insurrection, anything other than domestic terrorism. From what I can glean about
the term domestic terrorism never existed till after 9/11 and then dealing with the Obama administration and through the NDAA, which starts to give the federal government right to lock up and detain and execute any American citizen that goes against the system. And here we are now in 2023 starting to see it come to life. Grow legs, starting to walk. Now, who's she talking about? U.S. citizens and immigrants that are here now that have been lawfully admitted into the country? Or is she talking about red-blooded, real, true Americans that believe in the Constitution and fear God? You know what? It says in the Bible we're going to get rounded up and killed for what we believe, and it's looking to be true.
Today's hearing, and I'm going to say glean, because my Republican colleagues don't really want us to work together. They give us the bare minimum notice for hearings, no subject indicated. We learn who the hearing witnesses is from British tabloids. That's not normal in the House of Representatives. One must wonder, are Republicans scared of giving us the information so that we can do our own due diligence on these conspiracy theories, these ideas that they want to put forward? Indeed, today's hearing will be more of the same. Perhaps they're too far gone to realize that, in fact, this hearing is evidence, as if we needed any more, that MAGA Republicans are a threat to the rule of law.
So now what they just did was implicate Make America Great Again, or MAGA. So this is identity politics. This is called demonizing. You know, you find a sective group of people that is making waves, and it's credible stuff. They got to go after that credibility. They got to go after those sources. They got to demonize the people that actually made the stories and actually found the evidence. And then this individual, whoever the hell she really is, because to me, she don't represent the American people whatsoever. So she represents a foreign interest, a foreign agency. And because these facts have surfaced, and it actually implicates criminal activity going on in the Democratic, which I believe the entire left group is taken over. They're Marxist, they're socialist, they are the most un-American people to ever walk the face of the earth. That if it wasn't for the Constitution and all our American principles, they wouldn't be able to exist here. Can't have one without the other. Thesis and antithesis. So it's the very freedoms that are allowed and exist here in America is what give them the freedoms that they do. That's exactly what they're going after. Okay, and the Magna Carta, how a lot of the people went up against, Great Britain and the Queen and the Pope and all these people, is to start using their laws against them. And then that's, how it all happened. And then the Magna Carta is kind of the mirror and the reflection in the origin and the actual real spirit of liberty that began in the minds of men that started to create the very government that we have, through the Ten Commandments, the Magna Carta, and we also met with the Iroquois confederations. And that's another thing. They don't talk about how the Native Americans and the tribes were confederations.
In America. Less than 2 months ago, former President Trump, facing mounting investigations into his many alleged crimes.
Here's another thing. Everything that they're blaming Trump of is everything that they're guilty of. And so, everything that they're blaming the other side of is what they are guilty of. If you're not fully, truly aware of yourself, then you're not going to be aware that you might be gaslighting yourself, gaslighting the world, stonewalling yourself. You're either that far gone in your own self-absorbed ideology of self that you can't see that what you're accusing somebody else of, you may be guilty of. A lot of the pain that has been implicated in us, we begin to pay it forward, whether it's judgment or not. And again, I'm not trying to make this person be a terrible person. I'm just pointing out the error of our government's ways. That's it. And then it's up to the people to figure it out. Now, if they can't read between the lines, then someone has to speak up for them and try to help them at least plant seeds of critical thinking and truth. I'm not telling you what to believe. I'm just stating facts that I see in my perception and my observation, for then whoever finds this either to take a step back and maybe say, maybe he's right. Maybe I should check this out. Or believe these people, okay? I'm one of the people, and I represent one of the people. So this is a press of the people letting you know that I don't trust the government. I trust you. I trust you, not them. Not at all. Let's not forget, okay? This is a documentation I created. It was one of the first ones. It's called Ignorance is Obedience. It's on Fascist Book under a page called Subliminal Sanity. It's only got 22 views. And right away, the intro starts off with this officer saying, we don't care about the Constitution because if Obama doesn't follow it, then we don't have to.
Don't even care about black people. Obama has decimated.
Don't even care about black people. Obama has decimated the friggin' Constitution. Obama has decimated the friggin' Constitution.
Obama has decimated the friggin' Constitution.
So I don't give a damn because if he doesn't follow the Constitution, we don't have to. We don't have to. We don't have to. We don't have to.
We don't have to.
Lunacy is not a form of personal or public degradation that was the love of the world of unknown politics. Everyone's living in the conspired to control a mass conformity.
So as we move forward just a little bit,
or apprehension specifically involving or using something that becomes effective subconsciously by repetition.
there's only 6 major corporations, only 5, that as soon as 9/11 happened, they took away, there was 150 broadcast stations. Now, it's like 5. This is where we're getting all our information. This is supposedly the truth and where we get the truth. And history is important because it's bound to repeat itself if we're not educated enough. So 9/11 was really a catalyst into some dark, dark times in America, and people been really generally just asleep at the wheel, kind of like in a haze, not really paying attention to what's really going on.
More of the same. Perhaps they're too far gone to realize that in fact this hearing is evidence, as if we needed any more, that MAGA Republicans are a threat to the rule of law in America. Less than 2 months.
When really a lot would say it's actually the other way around. But I digress. I believe the whole system is a fraud and completely corrupted. And the more that we become aware, the more scared they get. That they knew that this was going to come, and they're really not sure how far this is really going to go. They're not aware that the whole country is undergoing a complete spiritual awakening right now. And all these people are going further to God. God's spirit is moving across the world for his people. But it's always going to be God's will that has to unfold and be done. But the people, the more that they turn to God, they repent for their sins, and they actually turn from their sins, they will be rewarded and met with repentance and love. And I'm not saying the world won't end or it doesn't have to end. Maybe the ending is not where we really think it is. Maybe the ending is really a new beginning. And the only ones who are trying to get a foothold and power over everything seems to be them. And there's a fork in the road. We're either going to go to nature and elevate nature back up and start respecting nature and man and its relationship with it, and see that man is nature with a voice, and that we both have this interconnected relationship between each other. All right? And the more that we go against nature, we're going against our soul. Or we're going to take the other side, which is going to be an aristocratic, technocratic, fucking democracy. This is going to be total totalitarianism based off all desires given to man through entertainment and everything you could possibly think of that leads to the complete shackles of man. And we're at a crossroads. And it's under Article 2, I believe. Article 1. It's Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. To exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such district. This is where they got the District of Columbia. Not exceeding 10 miles square. And may by secession of particular states and the acceptance of Congress become the seat of government of the United States. And to exercise like authority over all places purchased by the consent of the legislator of the state in which the same shall be. And this is where they have their authority through the consent of states and legislators to have jurisdiction from the District of Columbia. And this is where they created the democratic form of government. Washington District of Columbia is a separate nation within a nation. It's not an American nation. So as soon as you swear an oath in there, you think you're going to make change. No, it changes you. And you're forced to comply. It doesn't even matter. In fact, I'll give you the evidence of this. You can check it out for yourself. Now, listen very carefully.
Respiratory count 347 or +7.
Can the American people change Washington, D.C.?
In Washington today, you cannot fix Washington. Washington was created in deception starting in 1868. The 41st Congress changed Washington to a corporate-style government and gave it an area of jurisdiction of 100 square miles, which is known as Washington, D.C., or the District of Columbia today. In 1974, some of the land was taken back from Washington, and today, Washington is 68 square miles. Anyone who claims to be a citizen of the United States, under legal definition of the United States, is pledging their allegiance to Washington, D.C. or the District of Columbia. They are not Americans. You can be a U.S. citizen or you can be an American, but you can't be both. It's impossible. Anyone who claims to be a citizen of the United States, under legal definition of the United States, is pledging their allegiance to Washington, D.C. or the District of Columbia. They are not Americans. You can be a U.S. citizen or you can be an American, but you can't be both. It's impossible.
So think about that. You could be a U.S. citizen or an American, but you can't be both. So which one are you? Which one are you? And this is out of the darkness of freedom. I created this documentation by what the spirit, the world, the universe had gravitated towards me. The more that I started to see the big picture, I decided to put a documentation together to really explain it, compact it, put it together, and try to understand civics, American civics. How did we get into this mess? What really is going on? Who are you? Who are you? All right? And so, here it is. And you know what? It has more views than it ever did on the other channel. So it's a great, great beginning foundational video to learn your rights and who you are. But how can you fix something that's built off deception? How can you fix something that's not American, that's really not for you? I highly suggest you watch that video if you haven't seen it and you don't know anything about American politics. Now, I'm going to let this lady talk because I'm making this video to really show people what's being said. And we're 51 minutes in, and this is quite a bit of information being thrown at you without really even getting to the meat of this already. And if you watch these people's body language, it's self-evident of what's going on here.
Months ago, former President Trump, facing mounting investigations into his many alleged crimes, declared that, quote, Republicans in Congress should defund the DOJ and the FBI until they can come to their senses. And we all know that when Trump says jump, the Republicans in the House say, how high? So here we are, on Police Week, watching House Republicans jump to lay the foundation to defund law enforcement. My colleagues on the far right are on a mission to attack, discredit, and ultimately dismantle the FBI.
Now, let's go into that real quick. To defend the police, we're going after the police, right? Hold on, check this out. So we're talking about defunding the police, right? And I'm about to show you a video that's very alarming, okay? Now, before we watch this video, this was streamed 6 days ago under the channel House Committee on the Judiciary. Oversight of the U.S. Department of Justice, okay? So I'm going to give you a visual of what we're talking about so you can see. Don't forget to subscribe. Check it out on YouTube. Definitely a quality channel, okay? Oversight of the U.S. Department of Justice. So we're 2 hours in. We're 2 hours and 30 minutes in, and we're talking about reproductive rights in America, of how the federal government did away with Roe v. Wade because people were saying my body, my choice. So they repealed the Roe v. Wade so the government by state and choice can go after you. So still mob rule. No one's in control of their own self, right? But that, somehow they still recognize the rule of law, which is the law of the land, which is the Constitution, but at the same time contradict it side by side. Antithesis, thesis, God, devil, it's all working hand in hand. Reciprocity, what's good for you is good for me. Recourse, remedy, etc. So let's go ahead and listen further of what this individual responds with to her statement that she makes within the next minute or so, leading into constitutional provisions and rights.
Legislature and governorship today all have moved to restrict reproductive rights. More than 25 million women of childbearing age now live in states where abortion access has been curtailed. And in Washington state, my home state, the Seattle Times reported that we are seeing increasing numbers of abortion patients, not only from neighboring Idaho, which we knew we would see, but also from other southern states where these restrictions are enforced. Mr. Chairman, I seek unanimous consent to enter this Seattle Times article into the record. She traveled 2,000 miles secretly for her Washington abortion. Why patients from the South are coming here?
Objection.
As our fundamental freedoms are threatened by extreme MAGA Republicans in Congress and across the country, we trust that the DOJ will initiate investigations.
So she just blamed the fundamentalisms and our rights being violated and under attack towards the MAGA Republicans, but you just heard Obama say we need to do away with all fundamentalism. How these are extremists. So you see what's going on here, people? Are you listening closely and intently? With real, true purpose in life and existence and a participating member of this place we call reality? A child of God?
And file lawsuits to protect reproductive rights. With respect to mifepristone, what has the department done to protect access to this very safe abortion drug that women can take at home safely and to end a pregnancy?
So the FDA authorized the use of mifepristone as safe and effective, and it did it back in 2000. That's been challenged.
Now, Garland is not exactly a fan by most because he's just as corrupt as everyone else in this administration of politics. Doesn't matter who you are. In fact, it's probably better to be not a congressman or senator or anybody, a president, but it's best to not be a president at all or somebody in the limelight, but rather an individual that truly is involved.
Mandating that every hospital that receives Medicare funds provide, quote, necessary stabilizing treatment to patients, including abortion care.
Right, this is a federal law. It expressly preempts any inconsistent state law. For that reason, we filed a lawsuit in Idaho and one in the district court with respect to an Idaho law that impinged on the rights granted under EMTALA. We have filed, I think, a number of statements of interest in other places, and we're continuing to look at where it would be appropriate.
Our funds provide, quote, necessary stabilizing treatment to patients, including abortion care.
You're right. This is a federal law. It expressly preempts any inconsistent state law. For that reason, we filed a lawsuit in Idaho and one in the district court with respect to an Idaho law that impinged on the rights granted under EMTALA. We have filed, I think, a number of statements of interest in other places, and we're continuing to look at where it would be appropriate to intervene.
Thank you. You're on record stating that women who reside in states that have banned access to comprehensive reproductive care must remain free to seek that care in states where it is legal. I thank you for that. Can you briefly discuss the progress made by the task force and DOJ to ensure that pregnant people retain their right to travel?
Yes, look, my view about this right to travel is the same as Justice Kavanaugh's in his separate opinion. He said, this is not a particularly difficult question. The right to travel is a constitutional right, and it allows a woman in a state that bars abortion to travel and obtain an abortion in a state in which it's permitted.
You heard it, that the right to travel is a complete constitutional provision. Supreme Court has ruled that an automobile is a household item and that without it, your actual right of life and necessity to seek food, medical care and interests like that, it could be limited. And within the Declaration of Independence, within the 5th and the 14th Amendment, shall not be deprived of life, liberty, and happiness and property, okay? So, this brings me to the wonderful video you can find on Lackluster. Anybody who's not a member of Lackluster and a subscribed patron, please do today. This video was aired 22 hours ago. And let's see if we got the exact date. I like exact dates. September 25th, 2023. Lackluster. Cops hold family at gunpoint. In this video, this individual, this gentleman, is racing to the vet because his dog got hit by his neighbor's car, chasing a cat. And like any family that loves its pet as though it's a member of their own family, they would do anything they can to protect the life of any loved one. Am I wrong? If I'm fucking wrong and deserve a bullet in my actual critically thinking cranium, okay, comment below. Or unless you are a totalitarian, Washington District of Columbian bootlicking, thug fucking helping, and you love this establishment of corruption, please let us know in the comments below. Now, this is why Americans are believing that police should become defunded. Now, this is a very interesting video, to say the least. Remember, these individuals are just going to try to help their dog go to a vet.
Step back now! Step back! My dog's about to die! I hope you're going up my kids, sir. Policy. Trying to be nice to you, man, okay?
It's my dog, you see?
Okay, look, have you?
My dog's
I got it.
Welcome back to the Lackluster channel. In July of 2023, at around 7 p.m., Stella, the Albrecht family dog, was hit by a car after chasing a cat into the street. The entire family loaded up to rush to the nearest emergency animal hospital.
We jumped in the car and started trying to get to the ER as fast as we could to try to save her life.
There's no footage of a chase or the alleged speeding and reckless driving, but Officer Navarez of the Bernalillo Police Department wrote in his report that he himself was speeding at 48 miles per hour in a 40-mile-per-hour zone when the family vehicle changed lanes behind him without a signal. He also claimed that the dirt on the road veered up and onto his patrol vehicle because of how fast they were driving. The officer then activated his emergency lights and called over the radio. According to the officer's report, from when he first saw the vehicle to where they pulled over was less than 1,000 meters.
For confirming the vehicle stopping.
Just 30 seconds after activating his lights and sirens, the family pulls over, hoping to be met by a reasonable human that would take into account the emergent situation and allow them to continue on their way, or even provide them an escort. Instead, they meet Officer Jamie Navarez. Body cam footage typically has a 30-second buffer with no audio, but for some reason, out of the 3 files that I was given by the agency, Officer Navarez's video only contained 3/4 of a single second of buffer time, which indicates that someone deleted the first 29¼ seconds of video.
Step out of the vehicle!
3 seconds into the already suspicious video, we find the first lie in the officer's report. It claims that as the officer exited his vehicle, Mr. Albrecht got out looking mad, with his hands clenched, but the video shows that Mr. Albrecht remained in his vehicle with his hands up and fingers fully extended. The incident report, riddled with grammar and spelling errors, also claims, quote, "He was not doing what I asked for brief moments."
Face the fucking away from me! Hands on your head! Step back to the sound of my voice now!
This is a military. This is not a police force. This is a military, okay? That's what's going on here. And if you can't see this, then you're blind. And if you think, well, better him than me, then you might want to go and check out the fact that you are an apathetic, narcissistic person that does not give a shit about the life of anybody around them, that does not include your own immediate family and whoever you choose to have in your life versus other life that does exist all around you. And you know what? God bless you. And I'm praying for you. And I hope you find your way or your way finds you.
Now! Step back! Step back! Step back! Step back! Step fucking back! Now! Step back! Step back, go to your left!
This man has children in the car, and this police is saying, step fucking back! Like, he's literally swearing at this individual. And he doesn't even know any. Look, he's in his shorts. He's literally barefooted.
Go to your left! Step back further! Step back! Step back towards me! Step back towards me! Step back! Fucking bastard! Get on your knees! Get on your knees! Car, cover car.
My dog's about to die! Hands up! My dog's about to die! Please! My neighbor hit my dog, that's my son, my wife!
Hand up.
Please, sir, my dog's about to die!
Let's figure it out. Okay. Stop. You can stop your...
My dog's bleeding out of his mouth! Okay.
You stop when we fucking stop you.
Dude, you just scared the shit out of us.
Well, then stop the fucking car.
What's wrong? You're pulling a gun on my baby.
Then stop the fucking car.
Oh my God.
Do you not understand when these go on, you stop, you pull over?
I was trying to tell
can pull
you,
it.
sir.
Shut up.
Mailbox 4, Adriana Fabian, is full. Principal County Police Fire and Rescue, this is Amanda.
Hi, I was wondering if I could speak to a lieutenant or a sergeant or somebody like that that's in charge.
For what agency?
The police department.
Which one? I'm sorry, this is Sandoval County. We dispatch from multiple different agencies. I just want to make sure I get you to the right one.
Bernalillo or PD, which is the one that has, I believe it's affiliated with Officer, I think his name is Hernandez. He pretty much violated somebody's rights that I'd like to ask him a few questions, or at least the chief of police or somebody who is in charge of, you know, kind of describing what a job description is of an officer at law and kind of boil it down. I've done this before, and I've talked to a few agencies and trying to get to the bottom of, one, what is the job description of an officer and stuff. And you know, I know that you can only do so much. So, you know, if I could talk to somebody to at least kind of clarify one of the officers. So in this officer, let's see here. I'm trying to think of his actual real name so I can be a little bit more descriptive. And I'm pretty sure you know of the incident of the officer that held the family at gunpoint, traveling down the road, which, you know, I'm not really sure if you're aware, but Attorney General Merrick Garland, over an oversight of the U.S. Department of Justice, recently disclosed that we have constitutional rights to travel, especially through an emergency. That through the reproductive rights right now, the federal government is going after women's true ownership of their own body, whether they want to have abortions or not. And there's a story and a testimony of a woman that had to go to Washington and secretly travel at night to get these things done. And these are specific issues that are taking place in our very congressional hearings in governments that, and you know, Attorney General Merrick Garland openly stated, you know, that the right to travel is a constitutional right. And so government doesn't grant rights, it's there to protect them. And so I would like to know why this officer felt that he is, because, you know, I'm one of the people of several states, and people want to defund the police. They want to minimalize the tyranny that's going on and the encroachment of people instilling fear in their lives, robbing them of happiness, robbing them of life, robbing them of the virtue of what liberty really means, let alone property. Do you own yourself anymore? And so when we look at the police, we know that it's an executive branch. Then there's the judicial branch and the legislative branch. And so either the whole entire tree is corrupt, or there is a violation of separation of powers, that I'd like to speak to somebody and really ask them. I got 6 questions to ask, and I would like to know the answers from somebody that is willing to be honest, credible, and transparent. Because, I'm one of the voices of the people, and I'm sure that I'm not alone. But an officer Hernandez held an entire family at gunpoint for trying to bring their family dog. And do you believe that if you have any pets as a human, do you believe that, and a living man and a woman, that a pet is equivalent to a family member in your life? And that if they were dying, you'd want to get it as fast as possible to medical care. And so this begs to differ. This is something that is starting to raise a red flag across the entire nation. And while they demonize people who are looking out for the Constitution, God, and what their country really means to its freedom, and then on the contradiction of it, we have what appears to be a military forming before our very eyes, being created by either some kind of foreign entity or agency or government or corporation that we're unaware of, that is now implicating fundamental rights and real true freedom to be under attack. That if you exercise these things in any way, you will be met with gunpoint. So you're guilty. We've seen police execute Americans without a fair trial for police safety. Qualified immunity, you guys are protected well enough that now we need to know who's protecting the people now. And these are the red flag questions that we have as the people of this country. And I'm a national out of the Republic Nation of Maine, watching through my very eyes the jurisdictions that are exceeding and violating other people's rights. And so it's not a question whether rights are being violated, because we know that you have no obligation to not violate our rights. But your jurisdictions are exceeding its level of capacity, that people are unaware that if they get a driver's license or a U.S. citizen, somehow they're subject to all these policies, ordinances, and executive orders. They are not aware of this. So they volunteer towards this, thinking that this is the rule of law, to then become a criminal, a victim of circumstances. And then whenever a police officer is questioned of why he's doing this, he says he's just doing his job. So that brings me to my 6 questions. What is the job description of an officer? Did they swear an oath to protect and serve the Constitution? And if so, which one? The one to this state? The one written by legislators that involve the Uniform Commercial Code and statute and every bit of commercial activity that has turned all freedoms and rights into privileges and crimes? Or is there a private constitution that we're unaware of? And what about the one in District of Columbia? So is the department a for-hire or for-profit corporation? And if so, do you guys have a Dun & Bradstreet number where you guys are collecting revenue? And these are not trying to be cynical, mean, or any kind of malicious and motives here. These are what I look at is to be transparent is the people. Is the police department a military or a standing army? We have sergeants, lieutenants, cadets. So it's starting to see that we have something that's looking like a violation of the Third Amendment, quartering of troops happening on our very soil that is going after every right and liberty of man, that if they are just exercising liberty, they may be met with brute force, militant force, treated in a vulgar manner. And does legislative ruling trump constitutional law? Does the police work for Washington, D.C. legislators or the people? And are we're prisoners vaccinated voluntarily or by force? That's one of the ones I wanted to know during the COVID situation. And does the police actually know the color of law versus the law? And so if the District of Columbia asks you to round up and kill American citizens for non-compliance, would you guys follow directives and orders from your higher-ups or chain of command? Because it's starting to look like that's what it is. That if you guys were told to round up and execute Americans who follow the rule of law and know the law better than someone who is deputized within only 6 months of, or maybe a year, to become a law enforcement officer, while someone who passes the bar exam has to become an attorney through 7 years of schooling before they can even practice law. They have to go become a public defendant. They have to open up their own firm. and it takes a long time to get privileged, incredible clients. And so how does a police officer know the law past violating the law under 42 USC 1983, which is a deprivation of rights under civil rights? And if you look up 18 USC 241, conspiracy to go against rights under color of law, that's exactly what happened in that video. And then when you look at 242, is a deprivation of rights under color of law. And if you read, I believe it's 1986, any officer or agent that conspires with another individual under 42 USC, I believe it's 1986, is just as guilty as the next one. So these are the questions that I have, and I'd like to speak with somebody who has a lot more authority to answer these questions.
Okay, I'll get you over to our lieutenant. Hold on.
You reached Lieutenant Brandon Mingus of the Birmingham Police Department. I'm sorry I missed your call. Please leave your name, number, and a detailed message, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can.
Hello, I am a national grieved party. You can reach me at 207-707-7329. The reason why I'm calling is because of a video that surfaced on the internet of one of your officers that has raised concerns towards why a lot of the Americans would like to defund the police. And there's a lot of victimization of the police when it's starting to look like the police are utilizing whatever resources they have that appears to be a military growing against the American people. The way that that officer handled the situation, and other officers included, was very alarming. It violated a lot of rights, or at least I should say your jurisdiction exceeded itself upon free Americans exercising their right to travel. And even by, if you look up, there's an oversight of the U.S. Department of Justice, House of Committee on the Judiciary, where Attorney General Merrick Garland was stating about how the right to travel is a necessary and fundamental constitutional provision. And with these officers included in this Hernandez, it begs to differ whether this police force is for the people or working for a foreign agency. And if you guys were following orders to round up and kill Americans, it looks like this individual is actually definitely promoting that kind of slogan in reality that's building upon this nation as we move and culminate forward in the Anana Sea, which means the present now in existence, moving forward. So I have a few questions. What is your job description as an officer? Because whenever they exceed their jurisdiction to violate and injure and harm an individual's rights, they always just say they're doing their job. Did you swear an oath to protect and serve the Constitution? If so, which one? Was it the one to your state? Was it the legislative constitution that was revamped and also put upon contingent towards the American people under legislative statutes and acts? Does acts and statutes trump the constitutional law? Or is there a secret constitution? And they also have the Constitution of the Washington District of Columbia, which is the United States one that we're all familiar with the Bill of Rights. Is your department a for-hire or for-profit corporation with a Dun & Bradstreet number? Is the police department a military or standing army? Does legislative ruling trump constitutional law? Does the police work for Washington, D.C. legislators, or is it the people that you swore an oath to protect and serve for the Constitution and their rights? Another one was, do you know what the color of law is versus the law itself? Found under USC 18-241 and 242, conspiracy to go against someone's rights, injure, harm, and intimidate them. Also 242, which is a deprivation of rights under color of law, which could lead to a 42 USC 1983 civil action lawsuit. And any officer that contributed to the violation of these rights actually is responsible under its USC 42 1986, where any officer that watches another officer commit to any kind of tyrannical act or any kind of violation of rights is just as accountable as the next. And we just saw officers on this date violate an individual's rights, and it was the reproductive rights inside this committee's office okay, through the hearing of the oversight. You could find it, the judicial hearing of our House of Representatives in Washington District, Columbia. There was one of the arguments about reproductive rights. And on the, you know what, I'm going to let you listen to it a little bit.
For that, can you briefly discuss the progress made by the task force and DOJ to ensure that pregnant people retain their right to travel?
Yes, look, my view about this right to travel is the same as Justice Kavanaugh's in his separate opinion. He said, this is not a particularly difficult question. The right to travel is a constitutional right, and it allows a woman in a state that bars abortion to travel and obtain an abortion in a state in which it's permitted.
So if an individual is with his own family dog, now is your family more important than the American family? There's also another law that once you swear an oath to protect and serve, it's Title 8, Section 1481, Loss of Nationality by Voluntary Action. 2, taking an oath, you are no longer an American but an agent of the state or foreign government. Did you know that you're an agent of the state and the foreign government that does not represent the American people and actually has a loss of all liberties and rights? That you are a public servant and represent the people. You're either a peace officer or a standing military that's working for federal orders and eventually will militarize and kill any American that believes in fundamental liberties, protected and guaranteed not only by the Christian precepts of the Bible, which if you look under the Anderson Law Dictionary of 1889, is a lot of the precepts and originality of the natural law, of the common law of man. And just because people don't read the Bible every day doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It's still a living, breathing document. It's real. Just like the Constitution, just like the Declaration of Independence, the Articles of Confederation.
Message complete.
Let's hope we hear back from him soon, guys.
Your callback number is 505-891-7226. Press 4 to input a...
So, these individuals should be met the same exact way that I just met them. Give them a call. Let them know that they are operating under fraud and that you are watching them, that you see everything that's going on. That's 505-891-7226. That's the number that I called. Town of Bernalillo, New Mexico. And so, as we move forward, this is just an individual with his own dog going down the road. And so, let's listen further on Miss Pasquette.
FBI. This is defund the police on steroids. As part of their mission, my colleagues have brought in these former agents, men who lost their security clearances because they were a threat to our national security, who out of malice or...
So the one is the victim is actually the perpetrator, and the one that is actually the aggressor and abuser. That's what she just said, essentially.
Ignorance or both have put partisan agenda above the oath they swore to serve this country and protect its national security. It is everyday American taxpayer who is bearing the burden of this circus-like hearing. A year ago, Republicans promised that if they won control of Congress...
So now this is a circus-like hearing. So anything that has to deal with real, fundamental, crucial, critical details of our country and its real, actual national security within the nationals themselves, the people. This is a circus. This is crazy. This is how the Democrats work. If that's what you call them, okay? I think it's just a title. The name is irrelevant, or whoever you want to go by. It is literally your actions. Everything this government has done has created the problem. They told you exactly what to look out for. You got to vote for this and vote for me so I can protect this. Well, that's exactly what they're going after. Because that's how the psychology of the human mind works, and they know how to do it. These guys are so intelligent. They know exactly how to corral people. What's happening is people are waking up. They are freaking out. After the whole entire supposed COVID, okay, and the pandemic, these guys are scrambling, okay? And the only thing that we could do is just give up on the system. We don't believe in it. It's a dead, dying religion.
They would focus on kitchen table issues like bringing down inflation. Now we got a bait and switch. Instead of trying to make their constituents' lives better, they're wasting time and taxpayer dollars on an endless, fruitless string of partisan investigations. Instead of working to make America more secure, they're manufacturing opportunities to attack law enforcement agencies, even and especially on the same week that we are remembering those law enforcement personnel who lost their lives in the line of duty. We are assembled today to hear conspiracy theories and speculations. We're going to hear alternative facts, actions and events taken far out of context. When they lack support for a baseless allegation, get this, my Republican friends will cite the absence of evidence of a cover-up. And any suggestion that Chairman Jordan's witnesses are anything but victims of an oppressive dystopian government will be met with mock outrage. So we all know what we're about to see.
What she's essentially doing is trying to castrate these guys' testimony before it's even begun, okay? And so they're going off the ploys of what they have towards their testimonies and information that they created themselves. They own the media, so they know exactly how to demonize anybody, okay? And basically maliciously attack character and credibility and everything, and they're gonna blame them exactly what they're guilty for. That's what a lot of these narcissistic personalities are unaware of within their own self, okay? Now, everybody has a sense of a narcissist inside them, and I'm not demonizing the narcissist. Maybe some people might feel a little upset, you know, but the truth is the truth. And within your own level of perception, until you can realize that you're really just looking at yourself, you're always dealing with yourself, it's always yourself, and you got to fully accept yourself and realize that the person outside of you is actually really you know, from forever. And a lot of the actions that you're suffering is probably from karma, consequences, and the dharma, and that reality. And the more that you know, forgive and exercise in better karma, better things will always come your way. And that's the truth. And sometimes you might end up becoming the karma to be served to someone. But I digress. That's what you're hearing so far from this lady.
The real question, the real thing that Americans need to be focused on is why. My Republican colleagues would like me and others to believe that they've suddenly found religion when it comes to misconduct in law enforcement. Give me a break. When the FBI is rifling through personal correspondence of people of color, when law enforcement tries to push policies to limit the freedom of people practicing a different religion, or unjustly pursuing people in cars who look like Philando Castile or my children, or who are just going about their business, or breaking down the doors of people's homes like Breonna Taylor, do you think my Republican colleagues care about that? They don't bat an eye.
A lot of these people were involved in sex trafficking and a lot more stuff going on that were deep cover-ups within the scandals. They're all trying to protect themselves from the crimes that they all committed. That's what's really going on here. That's what's not being addressed on mainstream media. Epstein's little, island getaway for anybody that's involved. Bill Gates, his wife left him. Let's not forget what's going on here, guys. Let's not hop back on the hamster wheel all of a sudden so quick and fail to recognize the truths that have gone on over the last 20 years, 30 years, 20 years, since 9/11, the war on terror. War is terror.
But when the FBI investigates conservative Christian white men who are actually threatening violence, suddenly my Republican colleagues are rushing to defund the police. The reason we're here today is because Chairman Jordan wants to make America Trump again.
Identity politics, going after the person rather than the actual real fundamental issues at hand, that we need to rid of the Federal Reserve, that the national debt's too high, that it's robbing our children's debt and their future, and that the baby boomers set this up being duped and uneducated, and that the actual generations underneath them are more intelligent than them and more aware, and so the only way that they'd be able to censor and captivate the truth is by deleting and executing and castrating and demonizing and doing whatever you can to go after anybody, Let's not forget about, what the heck's his name? WikiLeaks. Julian Assange. Let's not forget about him right now. Okay? Anybody that's speaking the truth is being taken off the map. I forget the guy's name, but the guy who controlled Project Veritas, he's gone now. It's taken over by somebody else. So there's a level right now of where anybody who speaks the truth, You know, they say in times of universal deceit, speaking the truth will be a revolutionary act. Yep, George Orwell.
My Republican colleagues aren't here representing their constituents, not my constituents. They're representing Donald Trump. Their acting has his...
See, what's sad is that the Federal Reserve controls all our economy, which is a contract in itself. So it's binding. It's almost like whenever you shake your hand, there's an air between fingers of people, and they're trying to control the air. Because money is a media. It's like a sense of currency. It's in between everything. So money has become controlled and lent to the government with an IOU, and we pay the interest on that through taxation. So this is why all these laws and more of the slavery, because every charge is a tax against you. Seatbelt laws, traffic laws, all these things, registering your vehicle, tax, land tax, everything's a tax. So how are you free? You don't own anything. Without property, you can't have rights. So that's what they're doing, is getting you to sign over all your rights. And in that way, they own everything. Well, the ones who loan the government money are, what they're doing is making the people slaves to that debt. When really the ones that debt falls under is the government itself. So the banks control our government. That's what's happening right now. And it's what's been happening since 1933, since 1913, and the Federal Reserve Act was implicated, and we now have private bankers controlling the entire infrastructure. And if you don't know banking, then you can't free yourself from the system. You don't know how to operate as a free, secured party, individual in this world with your rights secured by securing even your own self, your name and everything. So these individuals have operated on a usurpation of our own property and rights to give themselves the authority and the power that they have to try to dominate people's lives. And that's what they're trying to do, is protect that. So it doesn't matter who you vote for. It doesn't matter who is in office. It's because of the Federal Reserve System controlling our very government. There will never be local freedom or a real true individual liberty of where our government is representing the people. They're representing foreign investors and people that are dictating them based off where our economical proceeds and stimulus comes from. That's basically in a nutshell. So if you want to change, we need to get rid of the Federal Reserve and bring back public banking or private banking among private citizens in the local area, controlling an economy that is ran. What gives money value? Belief. So that's really just a dollar. So it doesn't have any value, only by what we believe it does. And through that, they're buying up everything, so therefore they own everything because we're using their money to buy everything, so therefore they own it all. And this is what our grandparents accidentally got bred into, and then birthed the baby boomer generation, which was told all you got to do is just get a job and a good education and it's going to be okay. And they still say the same thing. Or go get a job, but you're still working for them. You're using their money. They own you. So you're going to have to either drop out of the Babylonian system and create one by the American people, or keep the sense of security going with their mirage, their illusion of life. The sense of security when you're not even aware of what's going to happen tomorrow.
Defense attorney, his campaign operative, and everything in between. This committee, this select committee, is a clearinghouse for testing conspiracy theories for Donald Trump to use in his 2024 presidential campaign. A
conspiracy theorist is essentially an individual who critically thinks or thinks critically and just questions the official narrative. So they're saying, there's a saying, history's written by the winners, okay? So there's a war going on. There's a thing called Trading with the Enemy Act. Okay, go check that out. And Securities Act that has been passed that implicates, I believe under Title 26 under the IRS, a U.S. citizen is a corporation, which is a taxable entity. So this is why you get taxed, just for working, income tax. They take money out of your wages. So it's not even your wages, it's their wages. Think about what I'm saying right now. And we live in the land of the free and the brave? Ha!
clear from these hearings is that Donald Trump knows just as well as I do that
she's just using Donald Trump as an individual that if you speak the way I do, you must support Trump. Well, I have news for you. Everybody should stop voting completely and put their own name on a ballot. You do not have to vote for anything like that. We need a revolution, and it's going to be an intellectual renaissance where we need to read their books. We need to hold them accountable to the law. We need to learn what they know and use it against them, because that's exactly, they're using what they do against the American people.
that the danger to him and his MAGA movement is the rule of law. That's why this committee is working so hard to undermine the rule of law. That's why Donald Trump asked Jordan and others on this committee to waste our time and taxpayer money, asked the Speaker of the House to attack the Manhattan District Attorney, Alvin Bragg, for having the audacity to indict the former president on 34 counts of fraud. And that's why this committee hasn't given up its stolen election talking points. And now here we are today, going after the FBI on Donald Trump's behalf. This is not a committee on the weaponization of government. This is a committee for the weaponization of government. This select committee is clearly focused on undermining law enforcement so extremists can undermine our elections through corruption and control our government through threats of political violence. I hope Democrats as well as Republicans watch and listen this morning, because this hearing will demonstrate far better than any opening statement ever could that outside of Washington, the real divide in America is not between Democrats and Republicans. It's between people who love this country, who believe in the rule of law, who want to follow the law, and those who will fight to make our union more perfect, and the people who want to tear down the rule of law and betray our Constitution for personal as well as political gain. I yield back.
This is what veterans are doing to increase their disability rating.
Two of the conditions they had.
Gentlewoman yields back. Without objection, all of their opening statements will be included in.
So right away, you're hearing her opening statement without really knowing anything but going on a defensive standpoint. She is already, I call it the Democratic rebuttal. I went ahead, I gave myself some timestamps here. Okay, so now we're going to go into the introduction to the
record. We will now introduce today's witnesses. Mr. Garrett O'Boyle. Mr. O'Boyle is a whistleblower, an FBI special agent, most recently in the Wichita resident agency of the Kansas City field office. Prior to becoming an FBI agent, Mr. O'Boyle served our nation as an infantryman in the United States Army for 6 years. In the Army, Mr. O'Boyle was deployed to both Iraq and Afghanistan. He received numerous service awards, including the Combat Infantryman Badge. Mr. O'Boyle received an honorable discharge from the Army. Upon leaving, Mr. O'Boyle continued his commitment to public service, serving as a police officer in Waukesha, Wisconsin for 4 years. Mr. O'Boyle joined the FBI in 2018. As an FBI agent, Mr. O'Boyle was selected to serve on the Joint Terrorism Task Force and the SWAT team. Mr. O'Boyle graduated cum laude from Marquette University with a degree in criminology and law studies. But the FBI questions his loyalty to the Constitution and to our country. Mr. Friend is a whistleblower, an FBI special agent, most recently in the Daytona Beach resident agency of the Jacksonville field office. Prior to becoming an FBI agent in 2014, Mr. Friend served as a police officer in Savannah, Georgia, and Pooler, Georgia. And as an FBI agent, Mr. Friend spent 7 years working human trafficking investigations and investigating crimes against children. Prior to blowing the whistle in 2022, Mr. Friend had received several awards from the FBI for his performance. Mr. Friend is a graduate of the University of Notre Dame. And again, after this service to our country, the FBI questions his loyalty to the country. Mr. Allen is a whistleblower and staff operations specialist with the FBI Charlotte field office. Mr. Allen has 20 years of experience as an intelligence professional in the FBI and the United States Armed Services. Prior to joining the FBI, Mr. Allen served in the United States Marine Corps, including service in Iraq, Kuwait, and Japan. In the Marines, Mr. Allen received several awards, including the Navy and Marine Corps Commendation Medal and the Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medal. Mr. Allen received an honorable discharge from his Marine Corps duty. And again, the letter we got from the FBI, they're questioning his commitment to our country. I find that astounding. Prior to blowing the whistle, Mr. Allen received several awards from the FBI, including being selected as Employee of the Year for the Charlotte Field Office in 2019. Mr. Allen holds a Bachelor of Arts degree from American Military University. Mr. Tristan Levitt. Mr. Levitt is an attorney and the president of Empower Oversight, an organization dedicated to enhancing independent oversight of government and corporate wrongdoing. Prior to joining Empower Oversight, Mr. Levitt was a Senate-confirmed member of the United States Merit System Protection Board.
Now, I'm going to go ahead and jump into a little bit of what they're saying, because it's pretty deep stuff. So we're going to go ahead to the sworn. Now, I will leave the link of this video in the description, okay? I just, this is my reactionary, video towards the things that I understand and see to try to build a better foundation of understanding moving forward for people that are listening to the federal government and its puppets try to tell you what is going on in this world that's more of a mirage and illusion versus geopolitically and the historical premises of stuff that has already happened that's led to the reality that we're living in today. This is why, how can you trust a government that doesn't trust its own people, okay? How can you trust a government that's weaponizing the police and doesn't recognize rights over, the so-called preliminaries of statutes, acts, and ordinances and regulations and executive orders that are now trumping constitutional fundamental laws? And you just heard it from many people's mouths. It doesn't matter what side it's on. They're accusing each side of what's going on. So how can you trust the very government that exists today when everything it says is a gaslight, a stone wall, some kind of, pigeonholing, and it's all about control. Anybody who reads etymology, govern means to control, and menti is the mind. So they want to control your mind.
Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you are about to give is true and correct to the best of your knowledge, information, and belief, so help you God? Let the record show that each witness answered in the affirmative. Thank you. Please be seated.
They just swore an oath of affirmation to the testimony given. And I want you to think about that. That's important, because this lady and this whole entire team are going to try to attack this man's credibility, and everything they're saying is though it's all perjury. It's all fraud. And these people are risking their entire livelihood to stand out. And they're saying it's probably just about money or this and that. And she even said, you're basically discrediting and going against your own nation. Like they're treasonous. So the question is the FBI an institution that even works for the American people? Or is it a foreign corporation that has agents that work for the corporation that swore an oath to protect and serve the Constitution? Which one? Which one?
Please know that your written testimony will be entered into the record in its entirety. Accordingly, we ask that you summarize your testimony in approximately 5 minutes. We're going to give you plenty of time. But if you can keep it around 5, great. But if you go over, no worries there. And we will start with Mr. O'Boyle. Mr. O'Boyle, you're recognized for your opening statement.
Chairman Jordan, members of the committee, thank you for addressing FBI malfeasance and allowing me to speak today. Aside from that point of gratitude, I'm sad, I'm disappointed, and I'm angry that I have to be here to testify about the weaponization of the FBI and DOJ. Weaponization against not only its own employees, but against those institutions and individuals that are supposed to protect the American people. I am here today because even though I am wrongfully suspended from the FBI, I remain duty-bound to the American people to play my small role in rectifying these issues. After all, I never swore an oath to the FBI. I swore an oath to the Constitution. I've served my nation and community my entire adult life, first in the United States Army, then as a police officer, and lastly as an FBI special agent. Shortly after high school, I joined the United States Army, where I served in the infantry, and I was quickly promoted through the ranks. I deployed to both Iraq and Afghanistan in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation Enduring Freedom. I served in the historic 101st Air.
So he's doing Operation Iraqi Freedom while setting up a platform and foundation to destroy American freedoms. Is this making sense, to anybody? And of course we have a right to be upset. Anybody that has a soul, see, there's many books, and essentially Mother Earth is a motherland, and people were created from the dust of the ground, and we are the soul of the earth. So we're the soul of the nation. Without emotion, there's no soul. Now, this is the rule of law. And the rule of law is to protect the principles of specific things with law. But the rule of law is being undermined and created protective, barriers for the government and police and everybody to be able to usurp and interfere with all our rights. Literally going against everything of what America's rights and freedoms really mean. Qualified immunity, okay? Terry stops, detaining you so that they can feel safe and secure. Somehow their safety and security matters more than yours now. And everybody's going to work, and I'm not really sure what's going on with people's courage these days, but with God, anything is possible within that courage. It's what inspires me to do what I do, stand up to the police and the people necessary. You know what? Righteousness. That's how you do it. That's what is going to help with the fortitudes of people.
Born Division. I received the Combat Infantryman's Badge, which is awarded to those infantrymen who engage in ground combat with our nation's enemies. The Army's official motto is, "This will defend." Along with numerous others, I volunteered to serve this nation, risking my life in combat to protect America and her values. I know some of the best men and women this country has to offer. They come from all backgrounds, races, and creeds. They helped mold me into the person I am today. Each was willing to sacrifice, and many did, to protect this great nation. It is our duty to honor their sacrifices by standing up for what is right, regardless of the difficulty. After serving in the Army, I became a police officer. Police officers, like me, are imperfect beings, but we strive to uphold the law and the Constitution. People who go to work every day trying to make their communities better, yet who nonetheless are faced with budget cuts and calls for defunding as we continue spiraling away from law and order as a nation.
Right.
While serving as a police officer,
The reason why this is happening is the moral constitution of man and people not facing themselves deeply inside, blaming other people for the problems instead of looking at themselves. And because the rule of law is missing within the 10 Commandments, and then the Bill of Rights not being held to the highest degree and standard of all things, they're creating other rules and federal rules and regulations and all other statutes and acts and everything they possibly can to make safeguards for themselves while eroding everything that actually protects the very nation itself. And this is some deep stuff because, it basically means that as American people, we need to stand united. The Bible says a house that stands divided will not stand. So we must admit that we've become divided before we can ever recognize to stand together as a house of people, as a house within, the house of your own ancestry, the house of your name. Yep.
I finished my bachelor's degree, graduating with honors in criminology and law studies. Shortly thereafter, I began the long road to becoming an FBI special agent, a position I once understood to be the pinnacle of law enforcement and a way to continue to serve this nation and protect and defend the Constitution. During my 4 years as a special agent, I received the highest annual review an employee can receive. I volunteered for, tried out for, and was selected for an FBI SWAT team. I also volunteered for, tried out for, and was selected for a new unit the FBI created. I also received an award for my work on an anti-abortion extremism case. I've been smeared as a malcontent and subpar FBI employee. This smear stands in stark contrast to my life in public service. This smear campaign, disgusting as it is unsurprising.
And I want you to pay attention, if you can, to their facial expressions. When they start to find out the real stuff, look at these people's faces. Okay? These are members of our Congress. These guys are testifying and sworn testimony and oath and affirmation that everything they're saying is absolutely true. Look at these people's faces. Who do they represent? Who do they represent? Us or them? Who do they represent? Look at these people's faces. Look at this guy. Look at that guy. He looks wicked happy at what he's hearing. Doesn't he? He's ecstatic. You know what? You got to see this. It's going.
Despite our oath to uphold the Constitution, too many in the FBI aren't willing to sacrifice for the hard right over the easy wrong. They see what becomes of whistleblowers, how the FBI destroys their careers, suspends them under false pretenses, takes their security clearances and pay with no true options for real recourse or remedy. This is by design. It creates an Orwellian atmosphere that silences opposition and discussion. We know what is right to do, yet we too often refuse to do what is right because of the difficulty and suffering it incurs. I couldn't knowingly continue on this path silently without speaking out against the weaponization I witnessed, even if it meant losing my job, my career, my livelihood, my family's home, and now my anonymity. It's up to members of this committee, current and former FBI employees, and indeed all Americans, to ensure that the weaponization of our own government against the people comes to an end, no matter the personal cost. As James Madison prudently opined, in framing a government which is to be administered by men over men, the great difficulty lies in this. You must first enable the government to control the governed, and in the next place, oblige it to control itself. The safeguards currently in place at the FBI are clearly inadequate and must be reworked to protect whistleblowers and others who are inappropriately targeted. The FBI can extract whatever they want from me. I'm willing to bear that burden. I've sworn to defend this country from enemies, both foreign and domestic, even if that means sacrificing my life. I've lived that oath out since first enlisting in the Army, consistently saying, "Here am I, send me." My oath, however, did not include sacrificing the hopes, dreams, and livelihood of my family, my strong, beautiful, and courageous wife, and our 4 sweet and beautiful daughters who have endured this process along with me. In weaponized fashion, the FBI allowed me to accept orders to a new position halfway across the country. They allowed us to sell my family's home. They ordered me to report to the new unit when our youngest daughter was 2 weeks old. Then, on my first day on the new assignment, they suspended me, rendering my family homeless. They refused to release our goods, including our clothes, for weeks. All I wanted to do was serve my country by stopping bad guys and protecting the innocent. To my chagrin, bad guys have begun running parts of the government, making it difficult to continue to serve this nation and protect the innocent. But I, for one,
listen what this man is saying.
Will never stop trying, and I'll never forget my oath. Thank you.
These are cattails, the flower.
Thank you, Mr. Boyle. God bless you. Mr. Friend, you're recognized for your opening statement.
Thank you, Chairman Jordan. Members of the committee, my name is Stephen Friend. I'm a senior fellow for the Center for Renewing America. Prior to assuming my current position, I was a special agent for the Federal Bureau of Investigation for 8.5 years. During that time, I investigated approximately 200 violent crimes, such as aggravated assaults, murder, child abuse, rape, robbery, child molestation, child pornography, and human trafficking. I also served 5 years on an FBI SWAT team and spent 5 years as a local law enforcement officer in the state of Georgia. In August 2022, I made protected...
I'm going to let it be known, I actually do not hate or have anything against law enforcement, government, or anything like that whatsoever. In fact, the Bible says that the government shall rest upon Jesus' shoulder, that he will be the government as we move forward, which is why I think it's important to claim your status, write out a real true declaration of yourself, and actually join a tribe. Doesn't matter which one it is. Try to get affiliated with your nationality and your origins here and become native again, sealed under the tribes of God in Israel, that all men are sinners. And the more that we go inside ourselves and can forgive everyone who has sinned against us, we shall be forgiven. And it's a deep internal world, giving yourself wholeheartedly to Christ and God and the Holy Spirit. And when you operate in love, you're not against the government. In fact, the more that you walk towards the truth, you realize the government's afraid. It's afraid to hold back, that it can't clench the mental genitals of people, that they will not be in power. They will lose the threat of their livelihood, their constant, perpetual wheel of gains. Now, a corporation, I suggest anybody go and look up the darkness of freedom that you've seen before within this interpretable, audio, video recording, okay? This visual aid, this entertainment. And you will see the construct of this government as a corporation, and that the president is just really a CEO of a corporation. This is not information you're ever going to hear in a classroom. So it'll always cause conflict around those that suffer cognitive dissonance. And it holds strong in this hearing.
Whistleblower disclosures to my immediate supervisor, assistant special agents in charge, and special agent in charge about my concerns regarding January 6 investigations assigned to my office. I believed our departures from case management rules established in the FBI's Domestic Investigations and Operations Guide could have undermined potentially righteous prosecutions and may have been part of an effort to inflate the FBI's statistics on domestic extremism. I also voiced concerns that the FBI's use of SWAT and large-scale arrest operations to apprehend suspects who are accused of nonviolent crimes and misdemeanors represented by counsel and who pledged to cooperate with the federal authorities in the event of criminal charges created an unnecessary risk to FBI personnel and public safety. At each level of my chain of command, leadership cautioned that despite my...
There it is right there. Look at them. They're literally scattering. They are freaking out. I'm going to rewind it a little bit. Listen what he's saying.
Could have undermined potentially righteous prosecutions and may have been part of an effort to inflate the FBI's statistics on domestic extremism. I also voiced concerns that the FBI's use of SWAT and large-scale arrest operations to apprehend suspects who are accused of nonviolent crimes and misdemeanors represented by counsel and who pledged to cooperate with the federal authorities in the event of criminal charges created an unnecessary risk to FBI personnel and public safety. At each level of my chain of command, leadership cautioned that despite my exemplary work performance, whistleblowing placed my otherwise bright future with the FBI at risk.
Everybody's texting?
Take an oath to protect the U.S. Constitution. The dangers of federal law enforcement overreach were hammered home to me when I was required to attend trainings at the Holocaust Memorial Museum and MLK Memorial. I cited my oath and training in my conversations with my FBI supervisors. Nevertheless, the FBI weaponized the security clearance processes to facilitate my removal from active duty within 1 month of my disclosures. In addition to an indefinite unpaid suspension, the FBI initiated a campaign of humiliation and intimidation to punish and pressure me to resign. In violation of HIPAA, individuals at the FBI leaked my private medical information to a reporter at the New York Times. In violation of the Privacy Act, the FBI refused to furnish my training records for several months. To date, they only provide a portion of the records, which are essential to obtaining private investigator and firearms licenses in the state of Florida. Even after releasing some of the records, the FBI refuses to confirm their legitimacy to the Florida Department of Agriculture, rendering the few documents they have provided practically useless. The FBI denied my request to seek outside employment in an obvious attempt to deprive me of the ability to support my family. Finally, the FBI Inspection Division imposed an illegal gag order in an attempt to prevent me from communicating with my family and attorneys. Working as an FBI special agent was my dream job. My whistleblowing was apolitical and in the spirit of upholding my oath. Nonetheless, the FBI cynically elected to close ranks and attack the messenger. The FBI is incentivized to work against the American people and in dire need of drastic reform, particularly in these areas. The integrated program management system incentivizes the use of inappropriate investigatory processes and tools to achieve arbitrary statistical accomplishments. Mission creep within the National Security Branch has refocused counterterrorism from legitimate foreign actors to political opponents within our borders. It weaponizes process crimes and reinterprets laws to initiate pretextual prosecutions and persecute its political enemies. Bureau intelligence analysis capability increasingly dictates operations, turning the FBI into an intelligence agency with a law enforcement capability. FBI collusion with big tech to gather intelligence on Americans, censor political speech, and target citizens for malicious prosecution. A dysfunctional promotion process fosters a revolving door of inexperienced, ambitious FBI supervisors ascending the management ladder within the agency. FBI informant protocols that are broken and abusive. The FBI skirts the Whistleblower Protection Act and exploits the security clearance revocation process to expel employees who make legally protected disclosures. I am pleased to see the Weaponization Committee is taking testimony from FBI whistleblowers. I would also like to take this opportunity to address correspondence recently received by the subcommittee. Yesterday, May 17, 2023, FBI Acting Assistant Director Christopher Dunham submitted a letter to this subcommittee. Portions of his letter concern the suspension and revocation of my security clearance. Parenthetically, I also received a letter from the FBI Executive Assistant Director Jennifer Moore yesterday notifying me that my security clearance was revoked. I find the timing of these letters dubious, but leave that up to the subcommittee's determination. Instead, I would like to address and add vital context to the portion of Mr. Dunham's letter pertaining to my alleged violation of Adjudicative Guideline J. Mr. Dunham is referring to an audio recording I created of my August 23, 2022 meeting with Jacksonville Assistant Special Agents in Charge Colt Markowski and Sean Ryan. After making protected whistleblower disclosures to my immediate supervisor in August 19, 2022, ASAC Markowski summoned me to a meeting at the FBI Jacksonville office. ASAC Markowski told me the meeting was intended to be an opportunity to discuss my concerns. I anticipated the meeting might ultimately lead to my executive managers attempting to compel me to participate in an activity which placed public safety at risk. I was concerned ASAC Markowski and ASAC Ryan may threaten adverse actions toward my career as a result of my whistleblower disclosure.
Now, this is all about the January 6th, parading of the White House, and that there's leaked evidence that really it was basically staged. It was something that had been set up and correlated between the FBI and the police at the White House that allowed a staged invasion of the White House. And the Democrats, they get extremely offended, they scream, they go into a very defensive position and act as though that everything that this individual, all these individuals are saying is just lies. That's what's going on here.
Prior to the meeting, I consulted Florida law to confirm that a law enforcement exemption exists for state two-party consent restriction. I decided to record the meeting to memorialize our discussion and my concerns about the FBI's misconduct. When I entered the FBI Jacksonville office building, ASAC Markowski and ASAC Ryan were having a private meeting. I waited for them in a conference room. When they entered, all of us placed our cellular phones on the conference table. As an experienced investigator who has conducted hundreds of recorded interviews, I noted how both ASAC Markowski and ASAC Ryan repeated themselves throughout our discussion and continually insisted I agree to their premise that I was insubordinate and refusing to perform my job. I rebuffed each allegation and repeated that I believed I was fulfilling my oath of office by making my disclosure about the FBI's rule of departures and the inappropriate risk to public safety via aggressive arrest tactics for January 6 subjects. It was my sincere belief that my ASACs were also recording our conversations. In January 2023, I participated in an interview with the FBI Security Division. During that interview, I was asked if I recorded my August 23, 2022 meeting with ASAC Markowski and ASAC Ryan. I answered honestly that I had. Although it would seem to be an obvious and natural follow-up, the FBI Security Division interviewers did not request a copy of the recording. FBI Security Division should be gravely concerned if executive managers threaten subordinate whistleblowers with adverse action. I submitted that this omission by the FBI Security Division solidifies my contention that ASACs Markowski and Ryan created their own recording of our meeting. The FBI was not concerned about potential whistleblower retaliation. The Bureau was only interested in learning if these actions were at risk of exposure. I pray that all members consider the information I and my fellow whistleblowers present. You may think I'm a political partisan. You may think I am a grifter. You may think I'm a conspiracy theorist. It does not matter. Simply put, this committee should avoid the temptation to impugn the character and the motivations of the messengers seated before you. I sacrificed my dream job to share this information with the American people. I humbly ask all the members to do your jobs and consider the merit of what I have presented. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Friend. I appreciate your testimony. Mr. Allen, you are now recognized for your opening statement.
Thank you, Chairman. Hello, my name is Marcus Allen. I'm a staff operations specialist for the FBI in the Charlotte field office. Due to whistleblower retaliation by the FBI, I've been suspended without pay for over a year. Thank you to the committee for allowing me time today to convey my concerns about the current FBI In particular, I am concerned, and I believe this committee should also be concerned, about the FBI's use of the security clearance process to retaliate against whistleblowers. First, though, just so you know a little bit about me, I served honorably in the United States Marine Corps from 2000 to 2005. I was deployed to Kuwait and served 2 tours in Iraq and contributed to Operation Iraqi Freedom. During my deployments, I was exposed to live enemy fire on numerous occasions, even though I served primarily in analytical and intelligence roles. I was awarded the Navy and Marine Corps Commendation Medal and the Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medal. I eventually joined the FBI and was Employee of the Year in 2019 in the Charlotte Field Office. As the holder of a top secret security clearance since 2001, I've been trusted with the nation's greatest secrets. So why am I here today? Despite my history of unblemished service to the United States, the FBI suspended my security clearance, accusing me of actually being disloyal to my country. This outrageous and insulting accusation is based on unsubstantiated accusations that I hold conspiratorial views regarding the events of January 6, 2021, and that I allegedly sympathize with criminal conduct. I do not.
So remember, the term CIA, the conspiracy theorist, the term conspiracy theorist is created by the CIA after the JFK assassination. This at least is what was told as I was growing up. Now there's many different allocations and different stories and sources, but before there was ever the internet, and all you had was books and word of mouth, and intelligent stories of intelligent men being passed back and forth, is where we learned of the real truth of the secrets of the world.
I was not in Washington, D.C. on January 6th, played no part in the events of January 6th, and I condemn all criminal activity that occurred. Instead, it appears that I was retaliated against because I forwarded information to my superiors and others that questioned the official narrative of the events of January 6th. As a result, I was accused of promoting conspiratorial views and unreliable information. Because I did this, the FBI questioned my allegiance to the United States. Since I was suspended, there's been a dearth of communication from the FBI, with interactions seemingly only being forced by actions from my counsel or members of Congress. For example, I was not even interviewed by anyone from the FBI until May of 2022. I was suspended in January of 2022. This interaction with the FBI happened on the heels of a public statement from a congressional member in early May of 2022. The member made statements indicating the FBI was conducting a purge of employees with conservative viewpoints. Within hours of the public statements, my counsel received a phone call from the FBI wanting to see if they could conduct an interview. I promptly complied and did an interview with investigators within a week. Throughout this ordeal, I and my counsel have responded quickly, whereas the FBI has only stonewalled. I have filed a federal civil rights lawsuit, which is pending, seeking to recover my livelihood and restore my good name. Recently, my counsel filed a whistleblower complaint with the Justice Department's Office of Inspector General. The complaint set forth retaliation through misuse of the security clearance process, as well as reprisal against me for making a protected disclosure. Interestingly enough, in the wake of filing the complaint, I received correspondence from the FBI indicating that my clearance had now been formally revoked. This occurred after filing my complaint with the IG. The new and baseless claims made in the letter had never been brought up prior to the issuance of the security clearance revocation letter. I have never had the opportunity to defend myself. I only had one interview with the FBI, which occurred a year ago after a Congress. In that interview, the investigators, towards the end of the interview, uttered in response to my exasperation, "Don't sue us." This has been a trying circumstance for me and my family. It has been more than a year since the FBI took my paycheck from me, and we're getting financially crushed. My family and I have been surviving on early withdrawals from our retirement accounts, while the FBI has ignored my request for approval to obtain outside employment during the review of my security clearance. We have lost our federal health insurance coverage, and there's apparently no end in sight. I'm hopeful scrutiny from Congress and from the Inspector General will deter the FBI from abusing the security clearance process to retaliate against others the way it's retaliated against me. This is why I filed a whistleblower retaliation complaint with the IG and why I'm here today to answer your questions. Thank you. And I also have a rebuttal if the member will allow me to. Thank you. This is a rebuttal of the FBI correspondence just recently sent to the committee in reference to my clearance suspension and now revocation. Calumny is not a word to be thrown around lightly. In regards to the FBI's treatment of me, it is fitting. This is conduct unbecoming of an organization given the public trust. Think about that. My treatment, without a doubt, has sent a chilling effect through what semblance remains of an analytical cadre. This was not a thorough investigation in my regard. I've not been afforded an opportunity to appropriately defend myself or confront the claims made against me. Interestingly, the revocation language citing Guideline E is the first instance I've ever seen referring to this specific guidance in my case. The claim that I obstructed a lawful investigation is dubious, and I do not recall ever being admonished for such an infraction. In regards to the paragraph in the letters highlighting an alleged incident with a special agent, I have no idea what it refers to. This alleged incident did not come up at all during the alleged thorough investigation. Again, as with Guideline E, this is the first appearance of this allegation during this entire ordeal. Next, I do not recall ever receiving a directive to stop sending information in regards to the 6th. Why would you not want any more information sent to you? Furthermore, the September 29, 2021 email referred to in the letter is part of a protected disclosure, and this correspondence represents documentary evidence of a protected disclosure as a source of retaliation and reprisal. Alternative analysis and differing viewpoints should be welcomed, even though they may not be ultimately acted upon by the actual decision makers. Groupthink should not be an ethos championed in an investigative organization. To shut down differing viewpoints is the end of any analytical or investigative body. It sends a chilling effect across the workforce and does not allow for intellectual freedom, which is vital to any investigative body seeking out the truth. It is possible.
In classrooms today, they're trying to make it so that public speaking is not something encouraged, that it's something that's taught. So they're breaking down the skill of man and what it is and compartmentalizing who we are to then create a commercial realm of it. It's subcategorizing, you know? A lot of people were contributing to the construction of the atom bomb and nuclear weapons at first, but not everybody really knew what was going on. Everything was compartmentalized. Well, that's what they're doing here. So it's the same thing with investigative theory. An investigative journalist or an individual that's out there is going to go by a hunch, a gut feeling, and an instinct. And these things, and then they have techniques. And these techniques are specific, how could I put it? Because they could look at as techniques, but an analytical, investigative, theoretical, behavior of a person that can analyze patterns or specific stuff to look for and have a basis of truth based off the evidence that they find, develops a theory to lead into truths that are now gathered as tools for other investigators, or whether you're doing interrogations to suspects of murder and understanding the psychology of certain kind of mannerisms and bodily behavior and how someone's delivering and conveying themselves, whether they're confident, whether they are telling the truth or not, whether they're trying to be deceptive or not. They know all those things. Then they have certain techniques of how to, it's called the read technique, of how to meet a suspect and be able to corral this individual either towards a real confession or factual truth that then can lead to an individual not being a suspect whatsoever. So they know what they're looking for. They've been doing it long enough that you don't end up sitting in that chair for no reason if you're talking to a detective. They've done their homework. And then it's just up to the state to prove all the details and depths of, everything. So you better know how to operate under a legal defense. You can say things to your public pretender and it might work for you, and they might push you back to to eventually get you into a confession, so you sign away your own liberties and end up subject to what the attorneys are working and negotiating out that's going to benefit the court and the state, not you.
The ire towards my perspective could have been due to folks wanting to maintain invincible ignorance instead of consciously and mentally transferring over to willful ignorance. This is the end of my statement. Thank you for my time.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Mr. Levitt.
Chairman Jordan, Ranking Member Plaskett, members of the subcommittee, thank you so much for the invitation to testify today. I currently serve as the president of Empower Oversight. We're honored to represent Stephen Friend and Marcus Allen. FBI whistleblowers have second-class status compared to those in most federal agencies. When Congress adopted the modern system of whistleblower protections, it prohibited retaliation against FBI whistleblowers. But it gave them none of the process that other federal law enforcement agencies received, like the DEA, the ATF, U.S. Marshals, and Secret Service. Whistleblowers of those agencies can all file retaliation complaints with the U.S. Office of Special Counsel.
Now, if you listen to this indirectly, like truly, you're going to see that everything that they're saying through their sworn and affirmed testimony going on here is the foundation of their defense. And so this is what makes the other side become more defensive. And you can start to see the stress. There's information that's disclosed that when it becomes disclosed, they become paranoid and they start to request this information in their own defense. But everything they've done was demonize and create an official narrative that must be true. And when you go and investigate anything else past that, it's a conspiracy theory. And again, so now it's going to be, these are people that work for the establishment and are whistleblowing, letting you know what's going on, that these people that are conspiracy theorists are not conspiracy theorists. They're telling the truth, okay? But in order for them to protect their credibility and the continuity of the deception and the fraud that they operate under, they need to attack and ridicule and accuse everyone else of exactly what they're guilty of.
An independent agency. FBI whistleblowers cannot. Whistleblowers at those agencies can all repeal retaliation to the Merit Systems Protection Board, on which I recently served. Until just last year, FBI whistleblowers could not. They finally got that right in last December's NDAA. But Congress must ensure that this new jurisdiction applies as intended to all FBI retaliation cases. Many have been wending their way for years through DOJ's long and extensive process. But the laws prohibiting retaliation have been on the books that entire time. The FBI cannot claim now that these are new rights just because they now have to justify their actions before the MSPB. Time has demonstrated, in my opinion, that it was a mistake to exclude the FBI from the standard whistleblower protection process. It discourages integrity and encourages deceit and even corruption. Congress should treat the FBI the same as all other federal law enforcement agencies, eliminating a special exception and giving its employees access to OSC to investigate retaliation. The hardworking employees of the FBI deserve equal protection of the law. The FBI's latest troubling practice is suspending security clearances to retaliate against whistleblowers. Mr. Friend and Mr. Allen, along with Mr. O'Boyle, are just several public examples of this trend. When the FBI suspends a clearance, it also immediately suspends the employee indefinitely, without pay. To make matters worse, it holds them and their families hostage by requiring them to get permission to take another job, permission the FBI routinely denies. Congress needs to ensure the FBI stops this abuse. In light of all these obstacles for FBI whistleblowers, you would think Congress would do everything that it could to welcome their disclosures here. But FBI employees coming to Congress have unfortunately been shamefully treated by Democrats on this committee. It's one thing to hear allegations and find them unpersuasive or even distasteful. An office can even ignore those allegations if they choose. That's their prerogative. But to go out and actively smear the individuals making disclosures is far worse. That's what the Democrats on this committee did when they released a March 2nd report entitled GOP Witnesses, What Their Disclosures Indicate About the State of the Republican Investigations. That report was inaccurate, both on the law and on the facts. The law doesn't define the term whistleblower. Instead, it protects from retaliation individuals who engage in protected activity. For over a century, simply making disclosures of any information to Congress has been a protected activity. Furthermore, an appropriations rider in effect at this time prohibits money from paying the salary of any federal employee who prohibits or prevents any other federal employee, such as FBI whistleblowers, from communicating with Congress. The Democrats' report denied whistleblower status to individuals engaged in the precise activity the legislative branch has considered protected since 1912. The report's reliance on evidence for whistleblower status is also misplaced. Simply communicating a reasonable belief of misconduct is protected whistleblower activity under the law. This applies regardless of whether the whistleblower produces evidence at that time backing up their allegations. Only protecting whistleblower disclosures accompanied by conclusive evidence, as the Democrats seem to require, would have disastrous consequences for retaliation throughout the federal government. My experience working for Congress was that whistleblowers brought allegations, and where the committees found those allegations worthy of further follow-up and congressional action, we conducted investigations. No one expects a private citizen to investigate a crime before going to the police, and we didn't expect a whistleblower to investigate their own agency. That's also essentially how the law for remedying retaliation through the MSPB is set up, where making a non-frivolous allegation leads to discovery, interviews, and more. Simply put, the burden isn't on the whistleblower to produce the evidence at the outset. That's why there's an investigative process.
That's right.
The Democrats' report also got the facts wrong. For example, they claim DOJ IG declined to investigate Mr. Friend's claim, when in fact DOJ IG will be interviewing Mr. Friend tomorrow and has an ongoing investigation. DOJ IG says no one from the Democrat staff ever contacted their office to verify this claim before issuing their report. Inexcusably, a number of mainstream media sources simply repeated the Democrats' wrong information uncritically without bothering to check the facts for themselves, which is why there were multiple retractions. FBI whistleblowers have traveled a hard road over the years. They should be treated by Congress the same as other whistleblowers.
So listening to this individual, you have to ask yourself, what is the truth these days? Are you really being told the truth? Or are you told snippets of certain things that by the time the day is over, it's too much and overwhelming to keep track of what is really going on to decipher how to articulate everything in a more linear or chronological order of events to understand what's really going on. And the American people, no offense to them, but their memory does and has eluded them more often than not. They have a hard time remembering things. And so if they could adapt to their emotional body a little bit and realize that memory can get trapped in your emotional body. So if things cause more of a reactionary measure of yourself, this can also dictate your conscience and how you remember specific things based off how it made you feel. So if you can look at history and the truth as a matter of passion, which is attaching itself in a sense to you, you'll have a memory of things as they take place to understand, a better perspective of reality moving forward of what history really is. Because they're telling you all the time how it's going to be, from 9/11 to COVID-19 to any other event that's taking place. They come off with the official story, and only people that are keeping track of the corruption of what's going on since a specific date, whether it was 1871 and the Organic Act or the Act of 1871, creating a new form of government, moving into 1913, the creation of the Federal Reserve, moving into 1933, the bankruptcy of America, and the creation of the HJR 192 Act, and then moving forward then from all the world wars that happened. So after 1913, we had World War I. Then we had World War II shortly after the bankruptcy of America, going into the 40s. And then the baby boomers are arriving, Vietnam War, Vatican rule under the UCC, UNIDROIT. All these things are fundamental to the position that America is in now. Supreme Court rulings benefiting more the United States and its District of Columbia and all its agents and principals and agencies. And this is why it's so important towards the administrations that we have of who pick our Supreme Court judges and whether they recognize the rule of law or go along with the corruption being established. 9/11, my buddy made a good point. If terrorists really wanted to attack our country, why do they go to the exchange? Right. Why do they go to the Exchange Committee? Why do they attack our economy? Supposedly. Why did they go after those Twin Towers and not the White House, not the Department of Justice? They could have gone anywhere else to make a real mark. So the only way that you would really want to destroy your country and anybody that's actually representing it is to go after the people that actually are in control of it all. All those corporations and its infrastructure that keep the rule of law in this country in a real, true constitutional medium. The FBI was there in Building 7. We had the CIA and many corporations that were running this country that after 9/11, then they created the One City Center, and during the Obama administration, it's already been a new world. Our government was hijacked in 9/11. That's what happened. And then they created, and check this out. There's a video I put together in 2015. We'll go to it. And as it goes. It's called The Reality Behind Jade Helm 15. So we're going to go in here. There it is right here. Okay. So in this documentation created, I'm going to go ahead and pause it. Full screen.
Practiced it in the last few years.
Anybody who knows about Jade Helm 15, I highly recommend you check it out. This is some pretty deep stuff. I went really deep in here, but I actually have some footage of the FBI kind of discussing tyrannical implications on the American people, the FBI themselves. So, right around 1:30, 06 in.
Empire. If you call it, think, well, there's something in that order. World Empire.
So here we go. And I highly recommend if fans to check this one out. Maybe I'll put this one in the description as well, Jade Helm 15. But we're going to go ahead. The reality behind Jade Helm 15. You can check it out yourself. It's escaped, the algorithm. It's on a channel that once was called Subliminal Sanity, is now the House of Haziah. The reality behind Jade Helm 15, all capital letters, 8 years ago. Truly check it out. This is one of the best documented videos I've seen on the subject. Too bad the volume is so bad. I look forward to your recreation of this video. And obviously, I didn't. I only had a phone that was really crappy. But it says, you can elaborate where exactly the message is upon you. It was messaging up on you. Also, if you plug it into a stereo, you will hear it clearly. I used my phone to video record myself and did not know the input of the microphone was only picking up one side. But let me know and I'll try to do it again for you. And eventually, nobody responded or whatever. It doesn't really matter, but check this out.
Who was the first terrorist organization in the United States? Who? Founding Fathers. You mean Thomas Jefferson? Oh, yeah. You mean George Washington? Oh, yeah. Paul Revere? Yeah. You mean...
So check this out. This is 9/11.
Who? Founding Fathers. You mean Thomas Jefferson? Oh, yeah. You mean George Washington? Oh, yeah. Paul Revere? Yeah. These guys right here, let me ask you something. Did they try to scare people? Oh, yeah. They tried to intimidate the British. Did they use acts of violence? Your founding fathers, my founding fathers, were involved in acts of terrorism against British officials because they systematically had British officials assassinated. The guys who we call our founding fathers, George Washington, Mr. Honest, who cut down a cherry tree and admitted it, is the same guy who signed death orders, if you will, on members of the British government, the British Crown, who they wanted to eliminate because politically they had influence in certain pockets of the United States, at that time the 13 colonies, and they wanted to divide and conquer. See, this is reality. Yeah, they're terrorists, but the bottom line is to them, they are not. Now, why is that important to understand? Because they are as committed to their cause and to their way of life as you are yours. And they see you being wrong.
For a multi-state...
So, you right there is an FBI training video discussing how, pardon me, we're 2 hours and 28 minutes in. I'm going to snack. So, if you know anything about history and certain snippets of truth that have leaked through the cracks, okay? Whether it's through visual aid, such as reading books, or to watching documentations that have taken you down a rabbit hole of reality and truths that are beyond many people's conception. And, that's the magic of the journey from, fear, trembling, truths of every kind. And when you're going down that rabbit hole, you never know what you're going to find. But within this realm, these are individuals that are trained that if you believe in your Constitution, you believe in the fundamentals of government, then you're a terrorist if you believe what the Founding Fathers believe, that they were terrorists. So this is what they're training each other. Now, definitely check that video out if you're interested. It's very deep, very detailed. It kind of explains exactly what's going on now in this country today.
Issuing reports smearing those who come forward from the FBI will unquestionably deter others from taking that same path. Congress must have firsthand information about how federal agencies are operating to perform its constitutional duty of oversight. Why would future whistleblowers bring their disclosures to Congress if they think they might be treated like this? Attacking whistleblowers hurts this committee and others, the House of Representatives as an institution, and Congress as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Levitt. The chair recognizes the gentlelady from Wyoming for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman Jordan. I want to thank our witnesses today for their service to our country, service which includes their willingness to provide protected disclosures to ensure that the federal government is held accountable for wrongdoing. We've heard their testimony, and my colleagues will ask more questions so we can further understand the wrongdoing they have exposed and the retaliation that they have now suffered. As this hearing gets underway, I want to focus on the cultural changes that have occurred within the FBI over the last 20 plus years, fundamental changes that have led to the political capture of our flagship law enforcement agencies, and with the Democrats using these agencies as their own personal political hacks. What happened that allowed for politicization to permeate every facet of the FBI? Well, there are many things, but I think we must focus on the information that was provided by retired FBI Special Agent Thomas Baker, who testified before the Select Subcommittee earlier this year. Mr. Baker explained that in the aftermath of 9/11, and upon being embarrassed by being scolded by President Bush for not being able to stop it from happening, then FBI Director Robert Mueller made the decision to fundamentally change the FBI from a law enforcement body to an intelligence-driven one. Such a redirection of the very purpose of the FBI resulted in centralizing its power in Washington, D.C., while placing less emphasis on the field offices. Changes that replaced agent executives in the headquarters with so-called professionals from the outside, and stockpiling more and more power in D.C. and away from the country that it serves.
Yeah, let's not forget that while Obama was trying to take the guns away from the American people, they were bought so many AK-47s and rounds and all these things, and militarizing, the government, not even knowing where most of this stuff is going, which is also in JADE Helm 15. If you watch that, definitely I highly recommend someone view that. And this is not conspiracy theory. This is the truth. This is what is written and documented in Secret Weapons and Wars, Silent Secret Weapons of Wars contract. If you look up also Agenda 30, Agenda 2020, Agenda 21 it was, now it's Agenda 30. And, they're really wanting to do a reset and depopulate the world rather than actually, again, it's going to have to be on the people. We're leaning too much on the system without a safety net of ourselves. And this is what's given them the power, is relying on them, depending on them, which has created a system of dependence that there's too many of them. Too many people waking up. And as you can see, by this hearing, It's not a conspiracy theory. They're targeting people that believe in the Constitution, the rule of law, God, and takes them and their power away. And they're afraid. And you know what? We got to forgive them. We got to see them as ourselves and take all their power away. That's what we got to do. Close your eyes, envision them. How does it make you feel? Allow yourself to process the feeling. Forgive them for putting this on themselves as you forgive them for putting it on you, as you forgive yourself for putting it on them, and the judgment and the resentment and the denials. God bless and amen. Salah. Shalom.
9/11 was a watershed moment for many reasons. It was a horrific terrorist attack on the shores of the United States of America.
Look up Michael Rupert, investigation of 9/11, okay? You got loose change, okay? There's many documentations out there of how 9/11 was more of an inside job than it was foreign agents or terrorists that, okay. The reality behind JADE Helm 15. When you go into the reality behind JADE Helm 15, right here, where are we? So we've got this. It starts off right in the beginning. Okay. So we created the problem. We created the very people that we're fighting.
And our citizens, as ourselves, have funded and supported and created Al-Qaeda.
Is the United States supporting Al-Qaeda in Syria? The answer is yes.
Fact number one, there is no question that Al-Qaeda fighters are part of the opposition forces attempting to overthrow Syria's government. Fact number two, the creation of Al-Qaeda wasn't Islamic fundamentalism. It was the CIA. The Mujahideen was created by the CIA to cause problems for the Soviets. And you might say that's crazy talk, right? Here's Secretary of State Hillary Clinton.
To be fair, we had helped to create the problem we're now fighting. How? Because when the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan, we had this brilliant idea that we were going to come to Pakistan and create a force of Mujahideen, equip them with Stinger missiles and everything else to go after the Soviets inside Afghanistan. And we were successful. The Soviets left Afghanistan, and then we said, great, goodbye, leaving these trained people who were fanatical in Afghanistan and Pakistan, leaving them well armed, creating a mess, frankly, that at the time we didn't really recognize. We were just so happy to see the Soviet Union fall, and we thought, okay, fine, we're okay now. Everything's going to be so much better. Now you look back, the people we're fighting today, we were supporting in the fight against the Soviets.
So it's not a conspiracy theory, it's history.
And it really doesn't even exist. It's just a boogeyman that we're sending out so we can keep rushing into other people's countries.
We're sitting down with Michael Scheuer, the man who had served in the CIA for more than 20 years, up until 2004. At one time, he was the chief of the CIA Bin Laden unit. Bin Laden is gone. Who is Washington's number one enemy now?
Washington's enemy is an enemy that doesn't exist. We're fighting an Islamic enemy that Washington believes is out to kill us because we have elections, because we're free, because we have women in the workplace. It's an enemy that doesn't exist. It didn't exist when bin Laden was alive. It doesn't exist now. America is being attacked because of its foreign policy in the Muslim world, because of its support for Israel, because of its support for the Saudi police state, because of its presence on the Arab Peninsula. And until we accept that, until Americans can say to each other, whether you support aid to Israel or not, our relationship with Israel is causing this war, we are not going to be able to defeat this enemy. And Israel itself as a country is not the problem. The real problem is the leaders of the Jewish American community in the United States. Who influence and corrupt our Congress to support Israel when we have no interest there.
So if you understand history, then you know that 9/11, again, was just an implication of an inside job to take over our constitutional liberties and principles and create a militant government. That's it. And essentially, no matter how much they're fighting, they're not really winning. And the rest of the world is standing up to America, or at least trying to create better alliances. You know, a lot of everything seems to be pre-designed and very proxy, quasi, made up. Everything's made up to create the rise, to create the influx and the spending rate. America, for some reason, every 10 to 20 years has to be at war. We just stopped the war on terror. Now we're funding a war in Ukraine that's costing our children's wealth billions of dollars with no real foundation or plan to pay this money back, or who's paying the interest. Is it a gift? There's supposed to be anti-emoluments and gifts to other countries. Presidents are not allowed to fund and take care of other presidents and countries. We're not allowed to get involved. And we are, which makes us already involved in, this could be a perpetuation of World War III, which has already been communicated about long and planned, you know. Look, there's a video I made before the election. Here we go. This video, 2016, this video was made to bring awareness to the patterns and pieces being set up for the future results of tyranny we see unfolding before our very eyes today. So let's listen in to what the past fractal version of Seneca, or avatar thereof, the Haziah Amadeus, has to say. So we're going to expand this. We're going to go right in. We're going to listen intently to this video created August 5th, 2016. August 5th, 2016.
How's it going, everybody? Hey, I just wanted to make a video to kind of put my thoughts out there of what to expect after the election. One, we're going to go to World War III. But first, the economy has to collapse. We're going to have an uprise in the nation. We already have people going against police going against people. It doesn't matter whether you're with the police or not with the police, or for the movements that are going on and encouraging all this stuff, okay? What we're going to end up happening is, what's going to end up happening and what we're going to end up seeing is that police are going to end up taking more orders and start cracking down on more people. You're going to start seeing more police brutality and more infringements on our rights. People talk, maybe there might be another terrorist attack or some kind of 9/11 again. What people don't realize is our
COVID-19 was another 9/11.
Already been a bunch of 9/11s. All these false flag shootings and all the things that are going on. Yes, people are dying, but there's other political agendas behind it to get our guns. You're going to see more, not only Sharia law grow everywhere, but you're going to see more and more people accept it and try to fight for it. It doesn't matter what president we get, we are going to go to war. All nations are preparing for it. They're going to implicate a cashless society, or they're going to start going against cash because the economy is going to collapse. So they're going to start implicating a RFID chip. It's called a radio frequency identification device. Anywho, you're going to see some crazy shit coming up in the next few, after the election. They're going to, because, you know, they're going to try their best to keep Obama in and institute martial law, but we're all waking up. We don't agree with Hillary. We don't like what's going on, but I guarantee no matter what, all these countries are in on it. This is exactly what they want, is whether it's Hillary or Trump, someone's going to go against us.
Look, as soon as Trump got in, COVID-19 took effect. The whole world was already prepared for this stuff. Event 201.
Or we're going to end up going against them, regardless, okay? Someone's going to attack us, or, look, North Korea already declared war on us. okay? It ain't gonna stop from here, okay? All I can say is that we need to start, well, get your mind right, individually, because people who think we need to reunite are kind of weak-minded individuals at the end of the day, and that's what they know, and that's what
they believe. They believe that if we are leaning on each other, then we're weak, that we need to look out for ourselves. But the more I go forward, it doesn't really matter. We need each other. We're either going to be divided against each other and not be able to stand, or we're going to have to do this individualistically, which is going to continue a major divide in the population.
they believe. And so no matter what in the world, if we're continuously trying to depend on each other, then there's going to be somewhere in the mix where we're not going to exactly get what we want. I'm sorry.
That was another thing I was told that motivated this, was that, if we continue to unite with a good cause, they'll attack us. They're going to throw somebody in there and demonize the movement and make it so that if it stands true and is good, they're going to go against it. And again, that's what they call as fundamental. They'll be calling you a radical. That's a Kevin Blanch statement right there. They'll be calling you a radical. Yep.
It's just not going to be that way, because they have a good way with leftists and right. You got the left and the right going on here, and the moment that somebody begins to make a good argument towards something, somebody's paid to also go in there and slant the perception of the populace against the situation. Okay?
That's why I don't believe this QAnon shit. Right now, Trump is really going for us. The only way that I can see that is if all these individuals that have committed crimes are a part of that list within the sex trafficking, everything that's gone on over all these years leading to now. We're going to see a rectification with real solutions, douching out the entire system, going back to the real rule of law, where the people are the power, they are the authority, not the government, not this makeshift reality that we are being presented with. This is also another deep video. You can check it out. It's on my personal account. And let's continue.
But our government's ultimate response is also tragic. And by eventually finding a way to target not the terrorists, but American citizens, which is where the FBI and DOJ are at this point in time. Both the DOJ and the FBI, they've used the FISA court to obtain illegitimate surveillance authority. They've targeted political campaigns with which they disagree. They have created a Russia hoax to cripple a duly elected president. They have targeted Catholics for exercising their faith. They've targeted parents for wanting to protect their children. And what we can say in short is that the eye of Sauron has turned inward, and it is burning with a white-hot intensity that seeks to destroy everything in its path. What I think we can say is that as the DOJ and FBI have become more political, they have amassed more power. And as they have amassed more power, they have become more political. This is a vicious cycle that must be stopped. To be blunt, the leadership of the FBI and the DOJ are corrupt. I will name names. Christopher Wray and Merrick Garland are corrupt. They know it, we know it, and the American people know it. Congress needs whistleblowers like you so that we can conduct our oversight and correct course on these abusive federal agencies. And sadly, what we've already seen and what we will continue to see today is that the Democrats will not focus on the substance of what these brave men are exposing, or engage in a discussion about how to protect our constitutional rights and institutions from the tyrants that are running these agencies. Instead, what we will see is that they will deflect, they will call the witnesses names, they will scream MAGA and extremist at the top of their lungs, they will attempt to impugn your integrity. But make no mistake, they are simply trying to cover up the unforgivable and the indefensible, which is the creation of a two-tiered justice system.
In the Constitution, it says that people who commit treason shall be put to death. that under even 241 and 242, they say to be put to death. Okay? Prison for life. Treason. We used to hang people like this. This is what we did. Death is not something. In fact, I believe it's one of the 18 ways of, dealing with a murder. That there's actually, if in a defense, it's like 18 ways of your defense so that you are not guilty of murder. Here it is right here. So 17 criminal defenses. Well, I have 18 actually. Mistaken identity. 2, accident, and it was no intent to commit a crime. 3, duress or immediate danger. So you were under duress, you felt in immediate danger, and this is a reason why you reacted the way you did. Beyond reasonable doubt. So you need to have beyond reasonable doubt that I committed the crime. If not, then you obviously don't have enough evidence. Defendant has an alibi. Entrapment. Police misconduct. Compelled of false confession. 9, probable cause. 10, falsely accused. 11, mistake of fact. 12, necessity. 13, self-defense or defense of others. 14, involuntary intoxication, meaning that, you got drugged or somebody drugged you and maybe that led to a death of somebody. Or, exactly. 15 is a plea of insanity. 16 is double jeopardy, which means you can't charge somebody twice for the same exact crime. 17 is a statute of limitations. I guess there might be a statute of limitations of death. And 18, duty to follow orders. And actually it is a non-citizen national or a citizen of its nation. Every citizen has a duty to uphold the law and to be its own sovereign principle, which means that they are the creators of the law. That's why they ask you to vote away certain things. And in a democracy, it's mob rule. But in a Republican form of government, it's individual basis of rule. So that's what we have here. And I hope that makes it clear is that I'm not telling people what to do, but I'm saying this insurrection, this movement of people that was staged to, seem as though somebody was trying to take over the Capitol. And these people got like life in prison, 10 years in prison. I mean, these people are not doing good. And what that does is it sets an image that if you want to go up and take over your government, that you have every right to abolish the government. That these people are treasonous. And back in the day, we used to hang these individuals. Back in the day, it was upon the people to do this stuff. Now again, this is where now these are extremists. Defy an extremist. As soon as you sign up for the military, you don't have any rights anymore. You are now property of the United States government. And you need to follow orders. You're equivalent to a bullet in a gun. You're not the gun. Someone's holding the gun. Someone's pulling the trigger. You're just a projectile missile heading in that direction. How is that not extreme?
Them based on political beliefs and the corruption of our political elites. I encourage the American people to listen to these witnesses, to read the Durham report, to study what is happening with the FBI and the DOJ, and to listen and to sift through the lies and recognize that this nonsense must stop, or we're going to lose the greatest republic that's ever existed in the history of the world. Thank you for your willingness to come here. Thank you for your willingness to stand on the wall. Thank you for your willingness to tell the truth.
From California, Ms. Sanchez.
Mr. Chair, just as a point of order, I understand and we have been made aware from what you stated in your opening statement, as well as in a press conference earlier, that Mr. Allen did meet with you all and might have testimony that was transcribed. And I understand that he stated that he did not feel comfortable meeting with the Democrats. he's comfortable being here today in this open forum. We will be questioning him. Will you give us a copy of that testimony that was transcribed of your discussions with him?
It'll be up to Mr. Allen.
But you are in possession of them, aren't you?
Sure are.
So why would you not give them to us?
Mr. Allen's a whistleblower and he didn't want that to happen.
He didn't want, but he's comfortable here in.
So these guys, the Democratic Party or the Socialistic Marxist Communistic Party in the face of a democratic liberal, opposing party to the conservative Republican Party, which is more of a neocon. But it seems to be that there's Americans and there is politicians that care about this country. They do, it seems to be. And what this country really means. I mean, you're going to meet people that are anarchists in a specific way of where they don't want to follow the rule of law, where they might presume to have so much authority that it undermines the authority also of the government. Without our authority, they don't have authority, you understand? And they have undermined our authority, which means we're undermining our own. We're giving too much power to people that are dictating the lives of the American people, that is infiltrating our small little towns and the school systems, indoctrinating our children to political elements that are not necessarily fit for a child's mind in the development thereof. Whether it's the food, the off balance of the sexes, between the man becoming more feminine and the women becoming more masculated, which is creating a influx or a disposition within the psyche of our daughters now and children that, they don't have a right to manipulate that. But, the more that we don't take control over the infrastructure or the institutions, the corporations that are feeding us, we're not protesting against this. In other countries, GMOs are illegal, not here in America. In other countries, in Europe, there is no chemtrails. Not here in America. In America, that we have people that still argue whether they're contrails or not. So you bring an oppositional or a thesis to the American people, they've been lied to and duped so bad that they don't even know that they've been lied to. They're ashamed, they're insulted, and they don't know how to take back the reins and the power structure. But because of people like this that think that they can, create the media, create and do whatever defense that they have, we have been infiltrated, basically. And that's why I'm
in open discussion with us today.
Sure is. You can ask him questions if you want.
You don't share your information with the minority?
Nope.
The whistle. No,
So you're not sharing information that you've obtained with the minorities.
Whistleblower saw what you did with Mr. Friend and others, the false information you gave the press, so much so that they had to issue corrections.
The whistleblower doesn't decide that. The committee decides it.
And we've decided.
And you've decided that you're not going to share.
Mr. Allen is here. You can ask him questions, and we can talk about the testimony, but
So they're trying to protect these individuals, and because they have new evidence that these guys haven't seen, they're scrambling now. They're upset. You see them? They're becoming extremely defensive. Past the official narratives that CNN and all these other, private criminal agencies of propaganda machines are feeding the American populace bullshit, essentially. And they are demonizing these people. This is why I'm doing this. I saw this. This is a reactionary news broadcast video of me journalizing my own public true opinion. You've seen plenty of facts that I've backed up, everything that's led behind everything to understand what's really going on to help other people do the same exact thing.
But right now you're not getting the testimony. Mr. Allen's here to testify.
And you'll give us the testimony when? After he's left, or at no point in time, or when?
Maybe in court. You guys are already starting right off with the defense mechanism that he's already a conspiracy theorist. You've already demonized him, and he's swearing on sworn oath and affirmation, and she's treating this like it's a joke now that she doesn't have the information, which is protecting this whistleblower. And exactly what she's trying to do is undermine protections to whistleblowers by trying to have a testimony that he's saying, I don't feel comfortable with you having because you've already demonized us, you've already gone along with the official narrative, and anybody that tries to question it or go against it is obviously a mega Trump supporter, not an American that doesn't believe in the party that has usurped and is literally going against any fundamental protected right or anything such as the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Third Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, all our amendments. And really that's just a piece of paper that doesn't do anything but bind the government. And what they believe is that they have enough authority and enough participants of this religion called the United States, Inc., okay, and its Babylonian precepts, that everybody is actually bowing down to it. That's not true. And that's why I'm making these videos. It's to show that we are in control, we are the power. You know, check this out. This is the art of war, okay? The art of war. Okay, I could have sworn that there was one of the rules of art of war of where if you're really small and your army's small, then pretend to be big. And if you're really big, you try to make yourself small. But essentially, 18 all warfare is based on deception. Hence, when able to attack, we must seem unable. And when using our forces, we must seem inactive. And when we are near, we must make the enemy believe we are far away. And when far away, we must make him believe we are near. So essentially, this is about manipulating the mind that even our nation might not have it all together or be as strong and militant as they make it out to be. That we may not be as advanced as we play to be in the world stage. So the world is a stage and everyone upon it is but actors, playing a role and a part that some of them don't even know that they're playing. They don't even know how it started. So essentially, how do we know that they're not placating themselves as the enemy? Okay, or we're the enemy. You understand?
We have that. That's only for the Republicans. Is that what you're saying?
Mr. Chairman, the gentlelady did not state a point of order.
The point of order was, will he be giving us the testimony of the witness that is here before us, and that you have information of that you are not sharing with the Democrats?
I move that
I was indulging the ranking member. The gentleman from California is right. She's not stated a point of order. The 5-minute questioning
So the point of order is I would like the testimony. I move that you give us the testimony of the individual.
Move to table.
Here.
There's a motion made.
Now, there's a rule of law called motion to vacate the chair. So if we don't like what we see, we as an American people have a right to contact our House of Representatives to motion to vacate the chair. Yep, there it is. Motion to vacate the chair. There it is right there. Allows rank and fill members to try to remove the speaker. Okay? McCarthy's top ally told me he has drafted a motion to oust him from the speakership simply to have a vote on it and to get it off the table so critics will stop dangling it. Now, I believe that we, as the people of the several states and the people themselves, have a right to motion to vacate these individuals that seem to have a hidden agenda and to politicize it and make it known on the public record by just making a YouTube video and publicly publishing it. That's another reason why YouTube is such a great utility, but yet with its censoring policies that are taking place, this right here undermines the rule of law and an individual allowing himself to be an independent journalist, documenting things and protected under the First Amendment as well as USC 42 2000 AA. Now, this concludes this video. If you want to watch the whole entire hearing and some of the other content that has been displayed within this video, please look in the description below and you will find some of the resources, as well as taking notes. Hopefully you took notes and are going to be able to move forward in your own due diligence to do your own research, come to your own conclusion, and to help yourself in the growing times of right now as we move forward into the unknown. Till next time.